Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 1, Training Speed. Rumble, the waves of the Starmist Sea struck against the shores of Malugo Island. The clan leader of the Bagshaw clan, Backwill, watched alongside Uriah and the others as Linley's group boarded their metallic life form, beginning their journey towards the Blood-Ridge continent. The metallic life form had once more transformed into a ship. On the front of the ship, "We finally left." O'Brien let out an emotional sigh. "Right. We left," Caesar repeated. "I'll forget this place forever." Linley glanced at Caesar. Previously, Caesar had asked him to help investigate what had happened to Cecily. Although Linley had discovered that the situation seemed off, and that it was uncertain whether or not Cecily was still alive, he still told Caesar that Cecily was perfectly fine and still living in the clan estate. "Perhaps this way, Caesar will feel a bit better," Linley said to himself. "We're finally leaving. Father, we're finally leaving." The elder six-eyed golden Ani lion, Cleo, was extremely excited as well. In the past, he and his brother had no idea that their father had been under soul domination. Only now did they know. They felt a surge of terror just thinking about it. "Right. We're leaving. We've escaped." Dylan stared into the distant southeastern skies, not turning at all. He would most likely never return to Malugo Island ever again. Screech! An ear-piercing sound suddenly shook the heavens. Linley turned to look. It was Tarasi. Tarasi's head was raised, and he was emitting an ear-piercing screech, his entire body trembling. After a long time, he finally ceased his howling. Tarasi turned to look at Linley, his eyes slightly red. "Linley, I won't say too much about this great kindness you have shown me. Thank you." Someone who had never been soul-dominated would never understand how Tarasi and Dylan were currently feeling. "Haha, let's go. Let's go to the Blood-Ridge continent. Let's go to the Indigo Prefecture." Linley held Delia by the hand. Their trip over the Starmist Sea was very calm. They occasionally met a few bandits, but given the power of Linley's squad, the high gods amongst them only had to show themselves and the bandits were immediately terrified and would flee. This trip was an uneventful one. Within the ship cabin, Linley was seated in the meditative stance in a corner. His original body as well as his three divine clones were all in this state. After this last experience, Linley realized what his greatest weakness was. His soul. It wasn't that his profound mysteries in terms of soul defense was weak. At present, he had fused the throbbing pulse of the world, gravitational space, and the essence of the earth. His soul defense, in terms of profound mysteries, wasn't weak. The biggest problem was his foundation, in other words, the strength of his soul. The power of a god's soul, in quality, was far weaker than that of a high god's soul. Although Linley, through using soul-related profound mysteries, had soul defense comparable to that of an ordinary high god, and also had that damaged soul-protecting sovereign artifact, it was precisely because of that sovereign artifact that Linley was able to roam the Starmist Sea, slay Gunmontan, and slay so many high gods. If he didn't have it, how could Linley, a mere god, possibly be so strong? Sovereign divine artifacts were simply too powerful. Right now, my number one target must be to reach the high god stage as soon as possible. Linley knew where he needed to develop himself. Once I become a high god, I can once again refine a large amount of amethysts, and with amethysts as well as the natural high god boost, my soul power will increase tens of times over. Once that happens, as long as I only need to defend that flaw in the soul-protecting sovereign artifact, I won't need to be afraid of even a 7-star fiend skilled in soul attacks. Linley knew all of this very well. It might perhaps be easier for someone at the god level to fuse profound mysteries, as upon reaching the high god level, the difficulty level would rise greatly. But at the same time, fusing a large number of profound mysteries as a god also took an astonishing amount of time. For example, the world-walking profound mystery of the laws of the earth, up till now, still hadn't yet even begun to be fused with any of the other three profound mysteries, much less completely fused. I currently have three types of profound mysteries. If I need to fuse four of them, it seems that I would have to thank my lucky stars to be able to fuse them in even 10,000 years. Right now, I've gained a basic understanding of the profound mysteries of strength. I need to hurry up and master the profound mysteries of strength, and then I'll train in the final vitality mystery. Once all six are completed, I will be a high god. By then, my power will grow dramatically. In terms of material defense or soul defense, I won't have any glaring weaknesses. I'll be able to deal against most 7-star fiends. Linley knew that upon becoming a high god, it was still possible to fuse profound mysteries. Only, the difficulty level would rise exponentially. Once I become a high god, I can continue to slowly fuse them. As long as one became a high god on one's own, there was still hope for fusing. I need to thank Mosi. If it hadn't been for his sledgehammer blow, who knows how long it would have been before I would have gained basic insight into the profound mysteries of strength. Linley quieted his mind, allowing his original body as well as his divine earth clone to wholeheartedly delve into training in the profound mysteries of strength. Right now, Linley was favoring the laws of the earth. As for the elemental laws of the wind, Linley had only begun to train in 5 profound mysteries. He had 4 more that he needed to train in, and the amount of time that took was astonishing as well. As for the elemental laws of fire, Linley's divine fire clone, till now, was still not even at the god level. Training in the elemental laws of fire is simply too slow. Linley now had an even greater appreciation for the importance of talent. If one was talented, then one would train faster, such as Linley with the laws of the earth and the laws of the wind. In less than 1,000 years, Linley had reached the level of learning 5 of the laws of the earth. But if one's talent was poor, although there was no bottleneck yet, Linley still had yet to even master a second profound mystery of the elemental laws of fire. Breaking through bottlenecks required insights, luck, and comprehension ability. However, normal training was reliant on talent. Linley's elemental affinity for earth and wind, based on the test that had been done when he was young, was exceptional. As for fire, it was only average. As for the others, his affinity was very low. Clearly, Linley had the greatest chance of becoming a high god soon through his divine earth clone. His divine earth clone's power was clearly more powerful, and so naturally, with even his original body training in the laws of the earth, his training speed became even faster. The star mist sea. Endless and boundless. Occasionally, an island would be seen. Rumble, the metallic life form continuously advanced through the waves. Linley and Delia were currently shoulder to shoulder, staring towards the southeast. Next to them was Olivier, Bibi, O'Brien, Dylan, Tarasi, Caesar, and others. They all had smiles on their faces. From afar, they saw a hint of a line that was extremely long. The line was ashore. The Blood Ridge continent. We finally arrived. Linley was incomparably excited. After heading out from Mologo Island, they had traveled for 23 years, and now, they were finally at the Blood Ridge continent. We're at the Blood Ridge continent now. The Indigo Prefecture won't be far away. Bibi's eyes were shining. Boss, I remember that on that map, it seemed as though the Indigo Prefecture wasn't too far away from the seashore. Oh ho ho, after nearly 700 years, we are almost there, finally. Linley and Delia held each other's hands tightly, staring towards the shore. Linley, once we arrive at the Blood Ridge continent, shall we head directly for the Indigo Prefecture, or to accept another escort mission headed towards the Indigo Prefecture? Olivier looked at Linley. After all, this was what Linley had done in the past. No need. Linley shook his head. In the past, I was weak and was afraid of trouble. Now, we'll head straight for Indigo Prefecture. No need to fear anything on the way over. Linley was now extremely confident in himself, and his squad had quite a few high gods. In addition, Tarasi was an expert on the level of a 6-star fiend as well. The metallic lifeform moved forward at a very fast pace. Soon, it reached the continental shelf. Immediately, the ship-shaped metallic lifeform transformed into a panther shape, flying in the air above the Blood Ridge continent. The Blood Ridge continent was similar to the Redbud continent. Various tribes were scattered everywhere, and bandits were scattered everywhere as well. Battles could occur at any moment. But of course, no bandit squad would dare offend Linley's squad. "Linley, how is your training progressing?" Tarasi laughed. On the way over, Tarasi and Dylan had finally learned that Linley was only a god. As for how a god could release such astonishing power, Linley just gave a fairly general explanation. However, Tarasi and Dylan could tell that this all had to do with the Amethyst Mountains. "Not bad. I've reached the later stages of the profound mysteries of strength." Linley revealed a hint of a smile on his face. "Unfortunately, I still haven't even gotten a basic understanding of the profound mysteries of vitality." This was what frustrated Linley the most. Vitality. Based on the book which had given him a general description of the various profound mysteries, the vitality mystery was one of the unique profound mysteries of the laws of the earth, and was exceedingly hard to gain insight into. For each profound mystery, getting basic insights as well as breaking through the final bottleneck to mastery was the two hardest steps. If one was slow, one could be stuck for a million years. And that would be considered normal. No rush. "Perhaps you'll gain a sudden insight soon." Tarasi laughed. Linley laughed and nodded as well. It was true. For example, he had suddenly gained an insight into the profound mysteries of strength, and so he had gained a basic understanding. "Your training speed is already very impressive. You've trained for less than 1,000 years, and yet you've gained insights into 5 of the 6 profound mysteries of the laws of the earth. And, more importantly, you've fused 3 of them." Tarasi was quite admiring of Linley. Tarasi himself had only fused 2 profound mysteries, and had relied on his innate divine ability, along with those 2 profound mysteries, to reach the power level of a 6-star fiend. "Hey, Tarasi, that goes without saying. My boss has always been awesome." Bibi walked over as well and said arrogantly, "Look at you. You've been training for I don't even know how many years, but you've only fused 2 profound mysteries." Humph. Tarasi couldn't help but laugh. "Bibi, don't be so smug. You train in the laws of darkness, right? I want to ask you, of the 6 profound mysteries of the laws of darkness, how many have you trained in, and how many have you fused? As I recall, you've been training with Linley for about the same length of time." Haha, the nearby O'Brien and Caesar both began to laugh. Linley couldn't help but begin to laugh towards Bibi as well. Everyone knew that Bibi didn't have any patience for training. At most, he'd be able to calm his mind and train for a year or so, after which he'd begin to get restless. With an attitude like that, no matter how talented he was, if he didn't work hard, how could he improve? "Tarasi, you know that's just how Bibi is, and yet you ask him this question," Dylan said. Bibi was so angry, even his nose was trembling. "Right. I haven't even fused a single profound mystery." "Bibi, enough. Don't be angry." Linley laughed as he patted Bibi on the shoulder, but Bibi raised his head proudly. "But of the 6 profound mysteries of the laws of darkness, I, Bibi, have gained insights into 4 of them." Everyone within the cabin immediately fell silent. Linley wondered if he was hearing things. He couldn't help but look at Bibi. "Bibi, what did you say?" Linley remembered quite clearly that Bibi hadn't spent much time training. Normally, he would just mess around, and only occasionally would he train. "Bibi, say it again." I suspect I misheard. Tarasi said, and even Dylan and Olivier were looking at Bibi. Neither Dylan nor Olivier had, as of yet, successfully mastered 4 profound mysteries. Listen up, and listen clearly. Bibi raised his eyebrows smugly, then said loudly, I, Bibi, despite not having fused a single profound mystery, have already mastered 4 of the 6 profound mysteries of the laws of darkness, and am currently training in a 5th. Linley himself had only mastered 4 of the profound mysteries of the laws of the earth, and was currently working on the 5th. Bibi, it's fine if you are slow in training, but you can't just make things up. Caesar said. Make things up. Bibi was so angry, his eyes bulged out. Bibi flipped his hand, and darkness-type elemental essence swirled around, forming a black serpent which wrapped around Bibi's arm. It even emitted a hissing sound, as though it were real. This is the essence of darkness. Bibi said smugly. See it? You knew that one all along. Olivier laughed. Bibi's body flickered, and instantly, dozens of doppelgangers of Bibi appeared within the cabin. Everyone remained calm, they all knew that Bibi was in possession of the shadow-shaped doppelganger technique. Humph. Bibi suddenly let out a cold snort. Very bizarrely, one black tentacle after another emerged from Bibi's body. Instantly, Bibi had become like an octopus, with the area around his body being filled by dozens of long, icy cold tentacles. The black, misty aura they emanated was exceedingly bizarre. Linley was surprised, and everyone else was stunned. Laws of darkness, the profound mysteries of evil. That was the 3rd. This is the 4th. Bibi's body flickered, and those evil tentacles disappeared. Bibi reached out with his right hand, and from within it, a vortex appeared which seemed to be devouring everything around it, swallowing up even light itself. The area of darkness grew larger and larger. Laws of darkness, the profound mysteries of devour. Everyone in the cabin was speechless. Olivier, up till now, had only mastered 2 profound mysteries of the laws of darkness, and was currently researching a 3rd. As for Dylan, he had only mastered 3 and was currently training in a 4th. But Bibi had actually been faster than them. How is this possible? Humph. You actually didn't believe me. Bibi. Let me tell you, it's possible that tomorrow, I'll have mastered the 5th one. Bibi smugly adjusted his straw hat, his head raised proudly. Bibi, what's this all about? Linley was utterly puzzled. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 2, Traveling to Indigo Prefecture. From going from the Yulan continent to the Infernal Realm, Bibi had always been by Linley's side. Linley knew very clearly how hard, or not, Bibi had trained. Logically speaking, it should be impossible for Bibi to have mastered 4 profound mysteries. However, Bibi had succeeded. This was a reality. Everyone had seen this. Bibi, how did you train? Dylan was in disbelief as well. How could you be so fast? Olivier, no matter how calm he normally was, had been stunned. They all stared at Bibi. Clearly, all of them wanted to know why Bibi was able to train so quickly, so as to see if they could also learn from this method. Bibi just laughed smugly. I told you so, but you guys didn't believe, earlier. Bibi said forcefully. We believe you now, but how did you do this? Tarasi asked as well. Even the greatest of geniuses had a process by which they trained. Linley had seized every moment to train, and his talent had been on full display in the Yulan continent. Everyone had watched him improve, step by step. But Bibi? Nobody had dared to believe that his training speed could catch up to Linley's. I'm Bibi. Bibi stared at the surrounding people. He said smugly, you didn't believe me. All I'll say is, it has to do with my grandpa Beirut. I won't say anything else. Lord Beirut. Tarasi and Dylan were mystified. Training was a personal matter. No matter how powerful Beirut was, he wasn't by Bibi's side. How could he help Bibi? Those smug looks on your faces just now, humph. I won't tell you. Slowly ponder it on your own. I'll only tell my boss. Bibi turned to glance at Linley, then chortled and said through the soul, Boss, are you surprised? I am indeed surprised. Linley couldn't understand either how Bibi had trained so quickly. Bibi smiled mysteriously. Then said through his divine sense, Boss, do you still remember how Grandpa Beirut had said that to help me train faster, he had paid a very heavy price and obtained many treasures to help me break through faster? He said that I was very slow to have taken 20 years before mastering the essence of darkness and reaching the God level, and that if it had been you, most likely a single year would have been enough. Linley immediately recalled this. Beirut had indeed said such a thing. Back then, Linley hadn't yet entered the infernal realm, and so he didn't clearly understand how powerful Beirut was. After arriving in the infernal realm, however, Linley finally realized how mighty Beirut was. Beirut had created that God-spark weapon for Bibi, then infused it with that pearl. The power of that attack had actually destroyed the divine artifact of Elkin, a 7-star fiend. If it had been Lord Beirut himself, he most likely would have easily killed that 7-star fiend. Linley still remembered how the master of Castle Hensey, Mosi, had said that there were very few people in the infernal realm capable of creating soul-protecting divine artifacts. But Lord Beirut had made a soul-protecting divine artifact for Bibi. Linley mused to himself, God-spark weapons are priceless items in the infernal realm as well. They are exceedingly costly. Even if all he did was sell off a few God-spark weapons, Lord Beirut would be a person of astonishing wealth. In addition, he is a sovereign's emissary. Despite having been in the infernal realm for so long, Linley had yet to hear of someone else who was a sovereign's emissary. To be selected by a sovereign, naturally, only absolute topmost high gods would be selected. Lord Beirut said that he had spent an enormous price to acquire some treasures. Given Lord Beirut's power, for even him to say that the price was enormous, what treasure could it have been? Linley understood that even 1,000,000,000,000 inkstones, to Lord Beirut, was nothing. A single God-spark weapon, in and of itself, was worth far more. What sort of treasure could possibly cause Lord Beirut to say that it had cost him an enormous price? He hadn't realized this earlier, but now that Linley thought of this, he became all the more curious. Bibi, what sort of treasure is it? For even your Grandpa Beirut to say it cost an enormous price, and for it to be capable of helping you train so quickly, Linley hurriedly asked through their spiritual bond. Bibi laughed. Boss, that treasure is, soul fragment strips. Soul fragment strips. Linley didn't understand. Right. Grandpa Beirut knew that I didn't have the temperament to slowly train, so he came up with this idea. Grandpa Beirut went to the infernal realm and spent an enormous price to invite a major figure to gather the souls of countless prime saints and fragment them into strips. He completely peeled out all of the fragments containing profound mysteries of the laws in the souls of those saints. Linley was stunned. Peeling off strips from the soul? When Linley had been in the Yulan continent, he had seen the then Grand Magus Necromancer, Zisler, execute a soul scour on a soul. Only, that just removed a portion of a soul's memories, there was no one to clearly sense the insights within a person's soul. Grandpa Beirut said that peeling off soul fragment strips is very hard. In addition, a deity's soul is fused with his divine spark. And so it's impossible to carve out soul fragment strips from them. The only choice for doing this is with saints. Bibi continued to chat through divine sense. To completely peel off the portion of a soul with insights into the profound mysteries of Allah is something which only a very few people in the infernal realm can do. Grandpa Beirut said that he himself couldn't do it either, so he had to pay an enormous price to invite an expert to help out. Linley was secretly surprised. In places such as the Black Sand Castle and the Redbud Castle, Linley had never heard of soul fragment strips being available for purchase. These things were simply priceless. Most likely, only major personages like Beirut were capable of acquiring them. When I became an adult, I naturally became a deity, and so gained insight into the shadow-shaped doppelganger mystery. Grandpa asked some of his friends to help out and acquire 4 pieces of soul fragment strips for me, which contained 4 of the 6 profound mysteries of the laws of darkness. BB sent resignedly. Grandpa Beirut said that most prime saints had only gained insights into very ordinary profound mysteries, such as the essence of darkness. Very few have insights into devour or evil. Grandpa's friends also were forced to spend an enormous amount of effort and to very carefully peel off those soul fragments. It is extremely difficult to completely peel off the part of the soul with the insights into a profound mystery. In the end, he managed to acquire 4, which he gave to me for fusing. BB sent mentally. Linley was completely stunned. Souls were very unique things, and even soul attacks were hard to develop. To completely peel off the part of a soul which contained insights into the profound mysteries of Allah, one could imagine how hard it was just thinking about it. To reach this level, how deep must one's mastery with regards to the soul be? Linley felt this was almost unbelievable. Beirut himself was capable of making soul-protecting divine artifacts, which meant that Beirut had already reached a very high level of accomplishment with regards to the soul. But even Beirut was not capable of this, and had to pay a huge price to invite others to do it for him. One could imagine how hard peeling off soul fragments was. Lord Beirut's friends are truly amazing. Linley sighed to himself. There was no way one could peel any fragments from the soul of a deity, so it had to be done to prime saints instead. Who knows how many prime saints were killed for these soul fragments to be acquired? Linley sighed to himself, but he also understood that in the infernal realm, the mighty were respected. In the infernal realm, many tribes raised saint-level magical beasts, then butchered them and retrieved their body parts for sale to restaurants. In the infernal realm, saints were treated as humans treated wild rabbits in the material realms. They could be killed at leisure. Alas, prime saints are all people who have gained some insights into a single profound mystery and have reached a bottleneck and are just one step away from completion. BB sighed. Thus, with regards to these 4 profound mysteries, I've gained insights all the way through to the bottleneck. For breaking through the bottleneck, though, I still have to rely on myself. In the Yulan continent, it only took me 20 years to break through in the essence of darkness. In the infernal realm, it's been 700 years. I've occasionally gained some insights, and broke through to obtain mastery in the devour and evil profound mysteries. Right now, I've completely mastered 4 types, while I'm at a bottleneck for the 5th. As for the 6th, I'm completely blind and have no idea as to what it is about. Linley completely understood. BB was a divine beast. As soon as he reached adulthood, he would naturally master one type of profound mystery and become a deity. This was the first profound mystery, shadow-shaped doppelganger. Afterwards, Lord Beirut, knowing that BB had no patience, didn't want BB to become a high god through fusing with a divine spark. Thus, he had paid an enormous price to procure those 4 strips of soul fragments to have BB fuse them, and thus naturally reach the bottleneck stage in those 4 profound mysteries. As soon as he gained an insight into one of them, he would reach mastery. He didn't need to train at all. No wonder. No wonder. Linley let out 2 sighs. Sometimes, one could be angered to death when looking at others. Linley had spent every day and every night training, but BB had spent all his time fooling around. When, for some reason, he gained a sudden insight, he would achieve mastery. This was simply too easy. However, in Linley's mind, he was still very happy for BB. Lord Beirut truly has taken exceedingly good care of BB. Linley sighed. Beirut had a very high status, while BB was the second god Adarat in his lineage. Beirut naturally viewed Bibi as a treasure and doted upon him to an unbelievable extent. For Bibi's sake, he had been willing to exhaust himself and run throughout the infernal realm to ask friends to help out. From this alone, Linley could tell how powerful and vast Lord Beirut's connections were. Peeling off soul strips, that's hard work and careful work. For that powerful figure to actually be willing to do this for the sake of Lord Beirut, Linley now understood how influential Beirut himself was. The metallic life form continued to speed towards Indigo Prefecture. As for the secret regarding why Bibi had trained so quickly, in the end, Bibi only told Linley and Delia. The others didn't know. Clearly, in Bibi's heart, Linley and Delia were closer to him. After they had reached the blood-rich continent, the metallic life form had flown on for 3 years. "Boss, look. Stone Sword Mountain." Bibi pointed through the translucent window towards the east. Linley looked carefully. In the distance to the east, there was an exceedingly tall mountain, its peak seeming to pierce through the heavens. The upper part of the peak was shaped like a heavy sword, and at the peak of this sword-shaped mountain, the clouds swirled about. "Stone Sword Mountain. We finally reached the Indigo Prefecture," Delia said with excitement. Stone Sword Mountain was one of the important landmarks in the maps of Indigo Prefecture. Linley felt the blood surging throughout his body. "Finally here. We're finally here. Indigo Prefecture. The place which his dreams and his very soul had been focused on." When in the Yulon continent, Linley had learned of Indigo Prefecture. He knew that his ancestors, the elders of the Barak clan, had all come to Indigo Prefecture. Linley thus had embarked on this one-way trip to the infernal realm. From the Redbud continent all the way over to here, they had encountered countless tribulations. The battle at the Castle of Sand. The volcano range. The breakthrough in the Amethyst Mountains. The shocking danger of Maloto Island, and now finally, after passing through the Starmist Sea, they had arrived at the Blood Ridge continent, arrived at Indigo Prefecture. Indigo Prefecture. Linley took a deep breath. Currently, he was unbearably eager to go meet the ancestors of his Barak clan. "Boss, we don't know the exact location of the 4 Divine Beasts clan," Bibi said. "It's simple." Linley was all smiles. "Let's first go to the nearest city, Fancy City. The 4 Divine Beasts clan should be extremely famous in the Indigo Prefecture. To find the place where the 4 Divine Beasts clan live should be quite simple." The metallic life form sped directly for Fancy City. Fancy City was the first city which Linley's group would be entering upon reaching the Indigo Prefecture. After flying for many days, Linley and everyone else was drinking wine and chatting idly in the living room of the metallic life form. As they were about to reach his ancestral clan, Linley was very happy. In this final stage of the journey, Linley was, for once, not training. Boom! Suddenly, a powerful vibration shook out from the skies, shaking Linley's metallic life form. The metallic life form trembled. "What a powerful wave! Hey, what's going on?" Linley and the others stood up, looking out through the window. The metallic life form flew very fast, and soon, Linley's group saw something which utterly stunned them. In the distant skies, nearly 100 high gods were fleeing in panic. They were currently being slaughtered by 3 white-robed men. "Haha, you won't be able to flee." A white-robed figure laughed loudly. The 3 white-robed men all had long golden hair, golden eyebrows, and were as handsome as any fairies which Linley had ever seen. The 3 white-robed men flashed about at high speed, and the high gods on the other side all fell down from the skies. Those high gods were terror-struck. "Flee!" With a furious shout, those dozens of lucky survivors immediately dispersed in every direction. "You won't be able to!" a calm voice rang out. One of the white-robed men whose long hair fluttered in the air suddenly had a pair of golden wings that were 10 meters long grow out of his back. This enormous set of golden wings was covered with a hazy golden light, and holy energy spread out in every direction. The golden-winged man, his entire body wrapped up in golden light, seemed so holy and beautiful. "I sentence you, to death," the white-robed man said softly. A translucent golden ripple spread out in every direction, and those dozens of fleeing high gods, no matter how fast they had been fleeing, were unable to move faster than this ripple. Immediately, those dozens of high gods who had been fleeing in every direction fell down from the skies. Only the original leader of those 100 high gods remained, and he stared in terror and rage at the 3 white-robed men in front of him. So strong. Linley, Tarasi, and the others were all stunned. "He trains in the edicts of fate," Tarasi said in a low voice. "Judging from his power, that white-robed man, if not a 7-star fiend, must at least be a 6-star fiend." Edicts of fate. In the infernal realm, Linley rarely encountered experts who trained in the edicts of fate, because most of them had gone to the celestial realm of the 4 higher planes. The few he had actually seen weren't very powerful. A high god that trains in the edicts of fate. Linley was secretly startled. From mid-air, a bellow rang out. "Why? We have never offended your Bolin clan. Why must you be so ruthless, to kill us all and spare not a single one of us?" The lucky survivor, the leader, couldn't help but bellow out in rage. Those 3 white-robed men all faintly glowed with golden light. "Why? Aren't you on assignment for the 4 Divine Beasts clan?" One of the white-robed men laughed coldly. "4 Divine Beasts clan?" the surviving leader said, stunned. "All who serve the 4 Divine Beasts clan will die." The white-robed man who had the pair of golden wings said, then he pointed out with his right hand and a ray of golden light shot out. The leader wasn't able to dodge in time. The golden light struck into his body, and he fell down from mid-air. The white-robed man with the golden wings cast a sideways glance at Linley's distant metallic life form, then let out a disdainful snort. "Let's go." The 3 white-robed figures transformed into 3 rays of light, disappearing into the horizon. "All those who serve the 4 divine beasts shall die." Within the metallic life form, Linley murmured to himself, momentarily speechless. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 3, Azure Dragon Clan. According to what Linley had learned on the way, as well as what he had heard from Beirut, as Linley saw it, the 4 Divine Beasts clan was extremely powerful. At Malugo Island, after seeing the many scryer recordings, he had mentioned to Castle Master Mosi the fact that he was headed for Indigo Prefecture, and Mosi had discussed the 4 Divine Beasts clan. From what Mosi had said, it seemed as though the 4 Divine Beasts clan had fallen on hard times. But even despite that, it should still be almost comparable to the Bagshaw clan. The Bagshaw clan, at Malugo Island, is in complete control. No one dares offend them. Despite countless years having passed, Malugo Island's fame remains widespread. There's no way something like this could happen at Malugo Island, where those who serve the Bagshaw clan will be killed. Linley really couldn't believe it. The Indigo Prefecture could be said to be the main headquarters for the 4 Divine Beasts clan. How could something like this happen within the borders of the mighty 4 Divine Beasts clan? How could a truly powerful clan allow something like this to happen? Anyone who thought about it for even a moment would understand. If a truly powerful clan encountered something like this, they would definitely eradicate the entire Bullen clan, killing them as a warning sign to frighten others. The situation doesn't make sense. Linley narrowed his eyes. The joy he had felt upon arriving at his clan's territory instantly evaporated, and Linley began to worry. It seemed as the situation the 4 Divine Beasts clan was in wasn't what he had thought it would be. In the metallic life form, Tarasi, Bibi, Delia, and the others were all mystified by what they had just seen. Tarasi said with a solemn look, "Linley, it seems as though the 4 Divine Beasts clan doesn't have much power within Indigo Prefecture." When Linley had invited Tarasi and the others to Indigo Prefecture, he had said that within the Indigo Prefecture, given the strength and influence of the 4 Divine Beasts clan, they shouldn't encounter any more dangers. But now, it seemed. I don't understand either. Linley's face was solemn. After all, he had never gone to the Four Divine Beasts clan before. All he knew, he gained from outside sources of information. I'm sorry. It seems as though I've caused everyone to enter a dangerous situation. Linley couldn't help but say towards Olivier, Tarasi, and the others. When he had invited them to come with him, he had wanted for all of them from the Yulan continent to be together and that there wouldn't be much danger. As he saw it, there shouldn't be any dangers in the main lair for his clan. But it seemed he was wrong. Dylan laughed. Linley, don't worry about it. No matter what happens, my life can be considered to belong to you. What have I to fear? Let's go. Even if someone wants to kill us, first they have to have enough power to do so. Tarasi said. Linley nodded. If the Four Divine Beasts clan was comparable to the Bagshaw clan, then, as an incredibly powerful force, there was no way they would simply be destroyed. As the saying goes, a camel which died of starvation is still larger than a horse. Mosi's words implied that the weakened Four Divine Beasts clan was still comparable to the Bagshaw clan. But before its downfall? How could such an originally incomparably powerful clan possibly be completely destroyed? Let's go to Fancy City first. Fancy City was a city in the eastern part of Indigo Prefecture, and was the first city which Linley's group was heading towards in Indigo Prefecture. Fancy City was just like every other city in the Infernal Realm, it was very bustling. The streets were rowdy and filled with people everywhere. Boss, where shall we go to find the location of the Four Divine Beasts clan? BB asked, puzzled. The war god, O'Brien, laughed. Any place works. For example, the Fiend Castle. We can just ask some people there. There are definitely people here in the Indigo Prefecture who know quite a bit regarding the exceedingly famous Four Divine Beasts clan. Asking around at the Fiend Castle was indeed an excellent idea. No rush. Let's go to the Blood Ridge Castle first. Linley said. The Redbud continent had Redbud castles, while the Blood Ridge continent had Blood Ridge castles. The two were the same, they both purchased and sold large quantities of items. Why are we going to the Blood Ridge Castle? Dylan asked. BB, do you still remember how we had gone shopping for books that time in the Redbud Castle? Linley turned to look at BB, who hurriedly nodded. I remember. That time, we went to buy some books regarding the geography of the Infernal Realm. Right. Last time, we only went to investigate the general geography of the Infernal Realm, which is why in the books we bought, the information regarding each of the 108 prefectures was very brief. But that time, however, we did see quite a few books which discussed each prefecture in detail. There had been 5 or 6 centimeter thick books that discussed each prefecture. Those detailed books each focused on one prefecture, and naturally would discuss and point out some of the unique areas in a prefecture, as well as provide some very detailed information on some of the most powerful clans. Most likely, even some ultimate experts would be described within. Delia's eyes lit up, and she nodded in agreement. Buy one which goes into detail regarding the Indigo Prefecture. The Four Divine Beasts clan is very famous in Indigo Prefecture. It will definitely be described in detail. And the location will be clearly mentioned as well. Linley laughed and nodded. If they asked others, others might point them to a specific place which they didn't even know was located where. After all, they had never had a detailed map of the Indigo Prefecture. They only knew the rough geography of the place. By buying a detailed book regarding the Indigo Prefecture, they would even get a clear understanding of the geographical information in the Indigo Prefecture. Buying books? I've never gone book shopping in the Infernal Realm. Tarasi laughed. You normally lived on Maluo Island. Why would you need to buy books? You'd only go buy them when you needed them. Linley said, then headed towards the Blood Ridge Castle. The 3 castles in every single city were bustling with activity. Following the flow of people, Linley's group quickly reached the Blood Ridge Castle. At the gate to the Blood Ridge Castle, there were Blood Ridge Army soldiers standing guard. Heh, I must say, the uniform of the Blood Ridge Army is quite stylish. It's much better than that of the Redbud Army and the Star Mist Army. BB said softly as he looked at the Blood Ridge Army soldiers at the gates. Linley glanced at them. The baleful aura it emanates is rather heavier than that of the Redbud Army and the Star Mist Army. Let's go. As he spoke, Linley led the group into the first floor of the Blood Ridge Castle. The way the Blood Ridge Castle was organized was quite similar to the Redbud Castle. Linley's group easily found the room which specialized in selling a large number of books. In the room, there were only 3 people, one of whom was the staff member. What do you want to buy? Seeing Linley's group walk in, and that most were high gods, the staff member immediately came to welcome them. Which book has information regarding the location of the 4 Divine Beasts clan? BB was the first to say. But Linley said, this place should have a detailed description of the entire Indigo Prefecture, right? Give me that book. We do. The female staff member withdrew an enormous, black-covered book that was 2 fingers thick, then walked over and handed it to Linley. This one should be the book with the most complete introduction to the Indigo Prefecture. Linley immediately accepted it and began to flip through it. This book, in its table of contents, was divided into geography, dangerous areas, famous people, clans, and so on and so forth. From the table of contents, Linley easily found the top-ranked 4 Divine Beasts clan. Page 158. Linley couldn't help but grow excited. The first thing which drew Linley's attention was the 4 Divine Beasts clan was actually the general term for 4 mighty clans of divine beasts. They were the Azure Dragon clan, the Redding Lating clan, the Vermilion Bird clan, the Nemo clan, the White Tiger clan, the Leos Leesi clan, the Black Tortoise clan, the Bowen clan. The 4 Divine Beasts clan was led by the Azure Dragon clan, the Redding clan. The 4 great clans were joined together into one, and were spread throughout the 4 higher planes. While reading the detailed information regarding the 4 Divine Beasts clan, Linley couldn't help but begin to sweat. The history of the 4 Divine Beasts clan simply astonished Linley. So originally, the 4 Divine Beasts clan wasn't just limited to the infernal realm. Divine Water Plane, Divine Earth Plane, Divine Fire Plane, Divine Wind Plane, and the 4 higher planes of the Celestial Realm, Netherworld, Infernal Realm, Life Realm, they all have branches of the 4 Divine Beasts clan. Linley was completely thunderstruck. Based on the description within the book, the 4 Divine Beasts clan was considered an extremely, terrifyingly powerful clan throughout the 4 higher planes as well as the 7 divine planes. They were spread everywhere, but of course, in the infernal realm, Indigo Prefecture was a headquarters for the 4 Divine Beasts clan. They are so powerful. Linley found it hard to believe. Boss, let me see. BB, seeing the look on Linley's face, couldn't help but snatch the book over from Linley and begin to read it carefully as well. As he read, BB's eyes began to grow round. Wow, boss, the 4 Divine Beasts clan is really badass. Delia leaned over to look as well. They really are quite formidable. Delia was stunned as well. We can leave now. I now know where the 4 Divine Beasts clan is located. Linley couldn't help but smile. The 4 Divine Beasts clan was the root and foundation of his own Barrack clan, which could only be considered one of the many branches. Naturally, Linley was delighted at how powerful the main clan was. Wait. Linley suddenly frowned. If the 4 Divine Beasts clan truly was so powerful, then why was it that when he came, he saw that member of the Bullen clan, the one who could grow golden wings, be so arrogant and unbridled? You are looking for the location of the 4 Divine Beasts clan. Suddenly, a clear voice rang out. Linley's group turned to look. The speaker was that female staff member. The female staff member laughed and said, If you want to just follow the information in the book to look for them, there's no way you'll find the 4 Divine Beasts clan. Linley was stunned. Why not? Is the book fake? BB immediately asked. The female staff member shook her head. No, the descriptions in the book are real. If they are real, then why can't we find them? BB said. The female staff member laughed. This book is in general circulation and for sale in every single city in the Infernal Realm. Because the Infernal Realm is too vast, just sending it out to each location will most likely take 1,000 years. Linley nodded. To send it throughout the Infernal Realm, it would indeed take upwards of 1,000 years. Because the shipping process alone takes so much time, the geographical information in the book will be re-evaluated and updated once every million years. This book is several 100,000 years old, and it described what the situation was like for the 4 Divine Beasts clan hundreds of thousands of years ago. The female staff said. The Infernal Realm was vast and endless. 1,000,000 years, in the ancient history of the Infernal Realm, really wasn't much. Are you saying? Linley began to understand. Right. The female staff member laughed. If you asked others, they might not know, but since I've always lived in Indigo Prefecture, I'm quite familiar with the 4 Divine Beasts clan. The 4 Divine Beasts clan, roughly 10,000 years ago, underwent a huge change. The branches that had been located in the Divine Planes or the other higher planes all returned and regrouped here in the Indigo Prefecture of the Infernal Realm. Linley now understood. Lord Beirut had not deceived him. The current 4 Divine Beasts clan really was in Indigo Prefecture. Delia asked, puzzled, what caused the 4 Divine Beasts clan to summon and concentrate all of their branches here in the Indigo Prefecture? Delia didn't understand. I'm not sure. The female staff member said with a laugh. That year, a large number of experts of the 4 Divine Beasts clan returned, but when they did so, they shook the entire Indigo Prefecture, because when they returned, they brought countless battles with them. Countless battles. Linley was stunned. Right. The female staff member nodded, then laughed. But of course, I'm just a minor figure, and what I know is limited. All I know is that back then, the battles were quite fierce. Afterwards, the 4 Divine Beasts clans that had been scattered throughout Indigo Prefecture all came together at one location. One location. Linley still clearly remembered what that book he had read had said. As that book had described it, in the 4 Divine Beasts clan, each of the 4 clans was located in one of 4 locations. Right. The 4 Divine Beasts clans are living quite close to each other now. The place they live is known as the Skirite Mountains. The female staff member said. Hearing this, Linley immediately thought back to when he had first read the book giving a general introduction to the geographical features of the Infernal Realm, and the information it had regarding the Skirite Mountains. The Skirite Mountains were a very famous area within the Indigo Prefecture. It could, in fact, be described as the mountain range which symbolized the Indigo Prefecture. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 4, Seize Them. After leaving the city of Fancy, Linley's group immediately rode on their metallic lifeform to head towards the Skirite Mountains. The Skirite Mountains are located within the northern borders of Indigo Prefecture. From Fancy City, there is a distance of nearly 200 million kilometers. To fly there will take half a year. Linley felt rather relaxed. After knowing where the 4 Divine Beasts clan was, Linley also understood, most likely, this place is too far away from the Skirite Mountains, which is why the Bullen clan dared to be so arrogant. This was Linley's guess. Another half year to go. BB stretched lazily, letting out a long sigh, then looked at Linley. Heh, boss, let's have a contest and see who will be the first to master a 5th profound mystery. What do you say? Linley had already reached the late stages in training in the profound truths of strength. As for BB, he had already reached a peak with regards to this 5th profound mystery of darkness, and as soon as he gained an insight, he would break through. But insights were something that one could hope for but not count on. Who knew how long BB would take? Linley immediately calmed down and began training. While training, time passed extremely quickly. Linley was only awakened from his training on 3 occasions. By the 4th time he opened his eyes, they were only a few 100,000 kilometers away from the Skirite Mountains and were about to arrive. The metallic lifeform's front became transparent, and Linley's group could completely see through the metallic lifeform to the front. Skirite Mountains. The 4 Divine Beasts clan. Linley felt that his breathing was growing ragged. The blood in his body was beginning to boil. He had come all the way over here from the Yulan continent. Finally, he was returning to his own clan. I can see it. The Skirite Mountains are up ahead, Delia said in delight. Linley's eyes were shining. One massive mountain peak after another could be seen piercing through the clouds and the sky, each of them astonishingly high. The reason why this area was known as the Skirite Mountains was precisely because so many mountain peaks here were so tall. That is. Linley's eyes couldn't help but light up. He saw an enormous bird of almost the same size as a mountain peak that looked as though it was about to take flight, its entire body surrounded by flames. Its feathers were fiery red, and it had green plumage on its forehead. Linley and the others could all feel the dominating aura which emanated forth from it. What an enormous sculpture! Linley couldn't help but be amazed. It has to be at least 100 kilometers tall. The tallest mountain peaks of the Skirite Mountains reached upwards of tens of thousands of meters. This enormous sculpture was comparable in height to the tallest of mountain peaks. From the book he had read half a year ago, Linley had gained a better understanding of the 4 Divine Beasts clan and had learned that the 4 Divine Beasts referred to the Azure Dragon, the White Tiger, the Vermilion Bird, and the Black Tortoise. Just from the names Azure Dragon and White Tiger, Linley was able to understand what the creatures represented. But Linley had never heard of a Vermilion Bird or a Black Tortoise. After carefully reading through the book as well as reviewing some of the pictures in the book, Linley learned that a Vermilion Bird was a fire-type divine beast that was similar to a fire phoenix, but which was far more powerful. As for the Black Tortoise, it was an earth-type divine beast that seemed quite similar in appearance to the dragon turtles which Linley had seen before. Even the divine beast Azure Dragon was not like those enormous winged dragons that he had seen on the Yulan continent, nor was it like the tyrant Wyrms. It was a dominating, noble, and utterly perfect, true divine beast. The most powerful water-type divine beast, the Azure Dragon. The southern parts of the Skirite Mountains should be where the Vermilion Bird clan resides. Linley immediately controlled the metallic life form, ordering it to fly towards the northeast. Indeed, the eastern part of the Skirite Mountains was where the Azure Dragon clan lived. In mid-air, staring afar at the distant side of the Azure Dragon's Redding clan, Linley was stupefied. Even Delia, Bibi, Olivier, Tarasi, and the others were so shocked, they couldn't speak. An enormous, coiling dragon that was over tens of thousands kilometers long was within the mountain range. Of course, it wasn't a real dragon. This enormous coiling dragon covered an area of tens of thousands of kilometers, and carved atop of its massive body were giant draconic scales. At the same time, it was also, in and of itself, a long passageway in the mountains, and the entire passageway emitted an azure light. From afar, it truly looked like an enormous, terrifying azure dragon. To build an enormous edifice of tens of thousands of kilometers long in the infernal realm is unbelievable. Tarasi sighed in shock. Look carefully. The entire body of this azure dragon is actually one long passageway, with many castles and residences around that passageway. Dylan said loudly. Linley was completely lost in the awe-inspiring sight before him. A dragon passageway that was tens of thousands of kilometers long and which coiled through the mountains, with castles and estates surrounding its perimeter and which formed a perfect whole with it. In front of the dragon's head was an enormous golden castle, which looked like a dragon pearl. The aura and majesty alone far surpasses any clan that I've ever seen. Linley was truly stunned. The 4 Divine Beasts clan had originally dominated the 4 higher planes and 7 divine planes. Even after their fall, they wouldn't forget the former glory of their clan. Naturally, they cared deeply about the construction of their clan's headquarters. Although they had seen it from afar, Linley's group had to fly for quite a while before arriving at the base of the Skirite Mountains. Standing at the base of the mountains, Linley's group stared afar through the dragon passageway, staring at the many patrolling soldiers dressed in azure armor. For a moment, they felt their hearts clench. At a glance, the warriors here were more than 10,000 in number. But Linley's group could tell that every single one of them was a high god. So many experts. Tarasi sighed in amazement. The 4 Divine Beasts clan really lives up to its name. At least in the number of high god warriors, it isn't the slightest bit inferior to the Bagshaw clan. This is a true, powerful, great clan. Dylan sighed in amazement as well. Salomon's Boyd clan had been decent, but these clans, when compared to the Bagshaw clan or the 4 Divine Beasts clan, were nothing at all. Look at the Bagshaw clan or the 4 Divine Beasts clan, every single soldier in their clan army was a high god. This is the Azure Dragon clan. Linley felt his blood pumping. My roots, the roots of my Barrack clan. This seemingly endless dragon passageway gave Linley such a familiar feeling, one which made the blood in his veins thunder. It was a feeling akin to when the prodigal son returned home. The sense of belonging was extremely strong. Linley. Delia held Linley's hand. Linley turned to glance at Delia. The two, looking at each other, couldn't help but laugh. They had experienced nearly 7 centuries of turbulence. When they had first come to the infernal realm, Linley was just a demigod. But now, he could effortlessly kill ordinary high gods. They had made their way over. And now, finally, they had reached their destination. The root and foundation of the 4 supreme warriors. The legendary 4 Divine Beasts clan's gathering point, the Indigo Prefecture's Skirite Mountains. Who goes there? A loud shout from up above. From the wide dragon passageway, 10 soldiers who had previously been on patrol flew over, and the captain of the squad barked, "This is an important area of my Azure Dragon clan. You need to leave immediately." Laughing, Linley replied, "Gentlemen, I myself am a branch member of the Azure Dragon clan. I have been in the infernal realm for a very long time, but I've finally made it here. Hurry up and welcome us." BB said loudly. "It's been so long, and we've really been exhausted. You belong to a branch of my Redding clan." The captain looked at Linley dubiously. "Kid, the members of my clan returned a long time ago." The other members of the patrol didn't quite believe it either. "You should know that our Azure Dragon clan is capable of dragon forming," one of the patrolling soldiers said. Linley laughed. Crackle, immediately, azure golden draconic scales sprouted from everywhere on Linley's body, and a spike emerged from his forehead. Linley's dark golden eyes stared at the captain. "Now, do you believe me?" Those patrolling soldiers all began to laugh as well. The captain was also all smiles. "Indeed. And judging from your body's aura, it seems as though you come from a fairly pure lineage. But how come you have those spikes on your back? Still, there's no mistaking that aura." Dragon forming was a very simple way by which one could tell if one was a member of the Azure Dragon clan or not. The Draconians of the Beastman race were completely different from the dragon form of the Azure Dragon clan. In terms of both power as well as aura, the difference was tremendous. They just looked a bit similar. "Haha, brother, you've had an arduous trip." The captain immediately laughed and went to welcome them, saying in a sincere voice, "When our clan retreated from the various planes, we really were in too much of a rush. Most likely, at that time, you weren't able to come back with everyone else at the time." The captain let out a long sigh. "At that time, Our main army returned as well, but it was disastrous. That year, my brother died in battle. Tears glimmered at the corner of the captain's eyes. Let's go. Let's go home. At home, you'll be safe. The two words, go home, caused Linley to tremble with emotion. These friends of mine came alongside me. Linley said. Them. The captain frowned. What is it? Linley was puzzled. The captain said with a frown. These are your friends, and you plan to live with them. Right. Linley nodded. They risked life and death to travel with me. It would be good if we can live together. What, is that forbidden? It's not that it cannot be done. The captain reflected for a moment, then said, the administrative rules of our clan are quite strict. If it was just you by yourself, you would receive a superb welcome, but if you want to bring them in, you'll have to live in a fairly distant, remote part of the Skirite Mountains. Remote is fine with me. Linley shook his head. That's fine then. The captain nodded, then laughed. Come, go with me to register yourself. We'll investigate what branch you belong to. Hey, you guys can come along as well. The captain addressed Tarasi and Bibi and the others. Linley's group immediately flew in along with the 10 patrol soldiers. Brother, my name is Ye'er. I came back from the Divine Fire Plane. Which plane are you from? How could your lineage be so pure? While walking, the captain asked in a warm, friendly manner. Right, which plane are you from? The other patrolling soldiers laughed as well. I'm from the Yulon Plain. Linley laughed. The captain's expression instantly hardened, and the same thing happened with the other soldiers. Seize them! Captain Ye'er shouted icily, and immediately, the other 9 patrolling soldiers moved aside as fast as lightning, immediately surrounding Linley's group of people. From higher up the dragon passageway, many patrolling soldiers who saw these going-ons immediately flew over as well. Linley's group was stupefied. Hey, what's this all about? Bibi immediately shouted. Linley just looked at the captain. Captain Ye'er, what's going on? Why are you suddenly seizing me? Captain Ye'er said calmly, sorry, brother. The Azure Dragon Redding clan, although spread out across many planes, is only spread out across the higher planes and the divine planes. I've never heard of a Yulon plane. Aren't I a member of the Azure Dragon clan? Linley asked. You are. I'm certain of this. Ye'er nodded. However, if we can't be completely certain of your history and which lineage you belong to, then you can't be completely trusted either. The captain said emotionlessly. Some members were scattered across the universe when they were young, and were raised by other clans, who trained them and then sent them back to be spies. This has happened more than once. In the past 10,000 years, the Azure Dragon clan had become exceedingly cautious. Because, they had suffered too much previously when they weren't. You suspect me of being a spy? Linley found it hard to believe. Captain Ye'er, if I were a spy, I wouldn't say I'm from the Yulon Plain. I would make up a perfect identity and status. Linley said urgently. Delia spoke out as well. Captain Ye'er, you might not have heard of the Yulon Plain lineage, but that doesn't mean others in your clan haven't heard of it either. Please go investigate first. Humph. Which lineage am I unaware of? Captain Ye'er was extremely confident. What's going on here? A bark rang out from above, and a middle-aged man dressed in light grey robes flew over. Captain Ye'er, upon seeing this person, immediately said with respect, "Milord, there is a person here who claims to be a member of our Azure Dragon clan, and indeed, he has the lineage of the Azure Dragon clan. However, he claims he is from the Yulon Plain lineage. I have never heard that our clan has a branch in a Yulon Plain." Oh! The middle-aged man looked towards Linley's group in astonishment. The Yulon Plain branch. The middle-aged man looked towards them. Who? Linley stood up. The middle-aged man laughed. Right, our Azure Dragon clan does in fact have a branch on the Yulon Plain. Captain Yetter and the other soldiers were all surprised. This was something from 6,000 years ago. Not many people know this. The middle-aged man said with a calm laugh. Their branch called themselves the Barrack clan. Quite peculiar. Nobody knows which elder ended up starting up this branch. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 5, Barrack. When Linley heard them mention the Barrack clan, his heart relaxed. His ancestors in the Barrack clan were in the infernal realm after all, and they really were here. For a moment, 100 emotions mixed in Linley's heart. Right, right. The Barrack clan. Bibi was unspeakably delighted. Boss, we finally found them. Linley. Delia felt happy for Linley as well. The nearby Olivier, O'Brien, Tarasi, and Dylan were all smiles as well. The Barrack clan, in the Yulon continent, was so very famous, but this was the first time they had heard others speak of it in the infernal realm. Linley, congratulations. Dylan laughed. There's no mistaking it this time. Caesar and the others laughed as well. Linley was jubilant. He had been guided by the teachings of his clan since he was young, and Linley clearly knew what the ancestors of the clan had done. And now, today, he was finally going to meet with the ancestors of his clan. Milord, I belong to the Barrack clan. Please hurry and take me to see the ancestors of my clan. Linley couldn't help but say. Impudence. Captain Yetter let out a cold snort. Linley was startled. Do you know what status his lordship has? Personally take you there. Captain Yetter was very unhappy that this person in front of him didn't understand the differences in status between them. As for whether or not you belong to the Yulon branch, everything will be made clear soon. Don't be too happy too early. The middle-aged man chuckled. Yetter, you can make the trip yourself. After speaking, the middle-aged man turned and flew away. Yetter looked coldly at Linley's group. All of you, listen up. Later, when we enter the inner reaches of the Skirite Mountains, don't fly around randomly. Follow me. If you bump into or disturb the high-level members of our clan, when they look for someone to blame, I won't be able to protect you. Understood. But Linley could sense how strict ranks were within the Four Divine Beasts clan. Follow me. Yetter flew up ahead, while Linley's group immediately followed. The Skirite Mountains were exceedingly vast, and the eastern part of them was the place where the Azure Dragon clan's clansmen lived. Linley and the others traveled through the Dragon Passageway. The Dragon Passageway was 50 meters wide, while the edges of it were carved draconic scales. This tens of thousands of kilometers long, coiling Dragon Passageway, rose and fell as it winded through the mountains. Countless estates and castles were erected by the side of this Dragon Passageway, with human figures visible within all of them. Boss, there's so many people here. Bibi's eyes rolled in their sockets. As I see it, the Azure Dragon clan has to have at least 1 million people in it. Boss, as I recall, your clan seems to be unable to produce many children. Linley chuckled. Indeed. The more powerful a race or clan was, the smaller their population was. But as time goes on, the accumulated population will still be a large figure. Linley said casually. Hypothetically, a new generation might be born every 100 years. Each member might have 1 or 2 children. As time went on, especially as hundreds of millions of years passed, how many clan members would a clan have? After all, upon reaching the saint level, one wouldn't die of old age. Only by being killed. After being born, we still have to survive. Captain Yetter said from up ahead. In the past, our Four Divine Beasts clan was very powerful and was capable of protecting all of our descendants. Naturally, our population grew greater and greater. But now, it isn't so simple. Linley couldn't help but grow puzzled. What exactly had caused the four divine beasts clan to fall? That castle is so beautiful. Delia said gently into Linley's ears. Linley turned and saw a completely blue castle, with only variations in the deepness or lightness of the coloration, creating a very unique, beautiful appearance that was indeed quite mesmerizing. Remember, just fly on Dragon Avenue and don't fly elsewhere. Yetter warned. BB snorted, and Linley couldn't help but look towards BB and laugh. BB, our clan's rules are a bit strict. When we are back to our own residence, things will be better. Linley was currently in a very good mood. I know. BB sent back through divine sense. While chatting, Linley, under the guidance of Yetter, arrived through Dragon Avenue at a very ordinary two-story building created halfway up a mountain. This two-story building had a white-haired elder slouching over a chair with half-lidded eyes, seemingly quite relaxed. Hanuman ha ne man. Yetter laughed. The white-haired elder opened his eyes, then laughed and stood up. Oh, Yetter, it's you. Why'd you come to my place today? We just met a member of our clan who has our lineage. Please help out by going with us for an investigation and a registration. Yetter explained. Which one? The white-haired elder turned to look at Linley's group. Him. Yetter pointed at Linley, who laughed and said to the white-haired elder, Mr. Hanuman, I am Linley. I come from the Barak clan of the Yulon Plain. Oh, Barak clan? The branch from the Yulon continent. I know. Hanuman's eyebrows danced, and he began to laugh. Our Azure Dragon clan is also known as the Redding clan. Virtually all of our branches refer to ourselves as the Redding clan, and only a very few branches who don't know the real name will casually choose a name for themselves. Your Barak clan is one of them. Linley could only grin. The first generation of his clan, Barak, didn't know of the Azure Dragon clan, nor that they were members of the Redding clan. Thus, he had founded his Barak clan. For you to be able to report that you are a member of the Barak clan, I trust that you are a member of our clan. Hanuman shook his head helplessly. However, the clan has rules. We must undergo a strict test, therefore, I need you to go meet with your ancestors. Meet with my ancestors. Linley was beginning to grow excited. Right. You have to meet them in order to completely ascertain your identity. Hanuman then looked towards Yetter. Yetter, your role is done. You go take care of your business. I'll accompany them. Yetter nodded, then left. It's rare to encounter a lost clan member who returns to us, even in a 1,000-year span. Hanuman sighed. Let's go. Follow me. Let's go meet the ancestors of your branch. Linley hurriedly followed him, while the group behind Linley began to chat amongst themselves. The four supreme warriors of the past, the Dragon Blood Warrior, Barak. It's been nearly 6,000 years since I've seen him. Caesar had a rare smile on his face. I wonder how those old fellows are doing these days. O'Brien nodded as well. Old fellows. Hanuman, walking up ahead, turned and frowned. The oldest member of the Yulon continent branch is just 6,000 years old. And you call him an old fellow? In our clan, I don't even know how many members have trained for hundreds of millions of years. The Yulon continent branch, in our Redding clan, is a very young branch. Very young branch. Linley's group looked at each other. In the Yulon continent, thousands of years of history definitely could be considered a very long history. But in the infernal realm, thousands of years was just very young. Compared to the other branches, which were hundreds of millions old, they were indeed very young. Old sir, BB called out, we see many castles and estates everywhere throughout the mountain ranges, with so many people. Old sir, do you clearly remember where the Yulon continent's branch lives? How could I not? Hanuman stared. Even with my eyes closed, Hanuman. Can easily find the residences of any of our Reading clan's various branches or of our ultimate experts. But we've been flying on this Dragon Avenue for so long. How come we aren't there yet? Bibi muttered. Hanuman couldn't help but frown at Bibi. Kid with the straw hat, in this group, it seems you are the most talkative. Bibi. Linley said softly. Humph. Bibi let out a low snort, not daring to say another word. Only now did Hanuman say, the Yulan continent branch is a very weak branch. These weak, small branches are located deep in the border areas. That's why it takes some time to fly there. We haven't even flown a tenth of the way there. After flying for a long time, and after having seen more than 100,000 patrolling soldiers, Linley's group finally reached their destination. Here we are. Hanuman immediately flew out of the Dragon Avenue. Follow me. Linley's group had also discovered that not too far away, there was a large gorge. Hanuman was flying straight for that gorge, and so Linley's group followed him in as well. The gorge had fog and mist within. While descending through it, they passed through the foggy mist and could vaguely see some small buildings up ahead. This place contains your Yulan branch, as well as some other branches. Hanuman said. This gorge has in total more than 10,000 people. Barak. Hanuman suddenly shouted loudly. Barak! 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 The entire gorge reverberated with this shout, and Linley's group was badly startled by Hanuman's sudden shout. They landed on the flat ground in the gorge. From afar, dozens of figures flew over at high speed, the leader being a muscular man with powerful, protruding chest muscles and a sleeveless shirt. His brown hair was rather mussed, and his eyes flowed with wisdom. Ha ha, so it is Mr. Hanuman. The muscular, brown-haired man laughed in a loud voice. A group of people followed him from behind. Most of them had long brown hair, with a few having golden hair or blue hair. Linley stared at this group of people. He is Barak? The founder of my Barak clan. Linley's heart felt as though it had been struck by a massive hammer. The dozens of people who had flown over were mostly men, with a few women as well. Linley, seeing them, had a familiar feeling appear in his heart. Barak. Hanuman laughed. Today, I've come because a member of our clan says that he is from the Yulan continent and that he is from your Barak clan. Linley's eyes were shining. Indeed, the man in front was Barak, the founder of the Dragon Blood Warrior clan. From the Yulan continent. Barak was stunned, and then wild joy appeared in his eyes. Someone came from the Yulan continent? And says that he is of our Barak clan. A muscular, handsome youth by Barak's side hurriedly spoke out as well, while at the same time, he swept the group of people behind Hanuman with his gaze. As though he sensed something, his gaze fell on Linley. This was the call of blood ties. But Barak's gaze fell on another person, Caesar. Caesar! It's you. Barak was amazed and delighted. Ha ha, Barak, I didn't expect that after you suddenly disappeared, you old fellow, you actually had run off to the infernal realm. Caesar laughed as well. O'Brien. Barak then looked at the war god, O'Brien. Barak, long time no see. O'Brien greeted him as well. Hanuman intentionally said in an unhappy manner, Hey. I'm here today to verify this person's status and see if he is a member of your clan. Barak, give me a hand and help me confirm his identity. Oh. Only now did Barak come to himself. He is Linley. Hanuman laughed. He says he is of the Barak clan. As he spoke, he pointed towards Linley. Immediately, the group of people behind Barak all turned their gazes towards Linley. These elders had gazes filled with incomparable ardor. They hadn't been back for thousands of years. The return of a descendant of their clan naturally made them excited. Actually, upon seeing Caesar and O'Brien, Barak was already certain that this Linley should definitely be a descendant of his clan. Please help verify him. Hanuman said. Barak nodded, then looked at Linley. Linley, right? If you are a member of my Barak clan, then you should know, that in our clan's ancestral hall, there are recordings regarding the generations of ancestors of the clan. Linley opened his mouth and began to speak. Barak, the very first dragon blood warrior of the Yulan continent. In the year 4560 of the Yulan calendar, outside the walls of the city of Linley, Barak did battle against a black dragon and a titanic frost wyrm. In the end, he slew both the titanic frost wyrm and the black dragon, causing his fame to be spread across the world. In the year 4579 of the Yulan calendar, along the coastline of the northern sea of the continent, Barak did battle against a nine-headed serpent emperor. On that day, the waves crashed unceasingly and nearby cities crumbled, but after a vicious fight lasting a full day and night, Barak finally executed the nine-headed serpent emperor. Finally, Barak founded the Barak clan, and became the first leader of the Barak clan. Ryan Barak. Hazard Barak. Linley described the affairs of three ancestors in succession. Barak and the group of people behind him were all so excited that their eyes turned moist. Right. Right. Barak said hurriedly. Barak strode forward and immediately enfolded Linley into his arms. Child, welcome home. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 6, The Weakest, Smallest Branch. Welcome home. These words caused a hot feeling to gush forth from Linley's chest. Feeling the caring gaze of the Barak clansmen on him, Linley suddenly realized that the difficulties he had endured through the nearly 700 years he had spent in the Redbud continent, traversing the Star-Mist Sea, and hurrying through the Blood-Ridge continent was all worth it. After wandering in the infernal realm for so many years, he had finally returned home. Barak released Linley, then looked at Linley, his fierce face hiding unshed tears. Linley, you must have had a rough time of it. Mr. Hanuman, thank you. Barak looked towards Hanuman. This Linley is indeed of my Yulan continent branch. Haha, Barak, congratulations. Here is the emblem of our clan. Let Linley bind it with blood. Hanuman handed out an emblem, then laughed and said, I won't disturb you further. As he spoke, Hanuman flew away and departed. Barak gave the emblem to Linley. Bind it with blood. Linley studied the emblem. This shows your status as a clansman. All members of the clan have it. Barak explained, and Linley immediately bound it with blood. In the instant that he did, Linley found out to his astonishment that he could actually sense the emblems which others carried. Indeed, by relying on this, one can easily differentiate whether or not someone is a member of the clan. Linley. Behind Barak, that handsome youth was all smiles. Do you know who I am? Linley couldn't help but be startled. He had never before met any of the ancestors of his clan. How could he know their name or identities? My name is Ryan. The handsome youth said. You were talking about my affairs, just now. Only now did Linley understand, and he laughed, our first Golden Dragon Rider Saint of the Barak clan. Haha, Golden Dragon Rider Saint. Right, right. Ryan began to laugh loudly. Just now, you mentioned myself and Hazard. Hazard, come here. Behind Ryan was a muscular man with light golden hair. Linley, hello. Hazard said. Linley opened his mouth, but Linley suddenly realized that he had no idea how he should address them. Hazard was his great-great-great-grandpa. Whether it was Barak or Ryan or Hazard, all of them were many generations senior to Linley. Seeing the look on Linley's face, Barak was able to guess what Linley was thinking. He laughed, Linley, in material planes, people's lifespan are not very long, so generational questions matter. In the infernal realm, however, there are many who have lived for over 100 million years. Caring about generations is no longer meaningful. Look, In our Azure Dragon clan, which has existed for countless billions of years, there might be a gap 100 million generations between an elder and a junior. Tell me, what's the point? Once things got to a certain level, it became pointless. For example, in the Yulan continent and the O'Brien Empire, the war god had many descendants. After 5,000 years, his descendants were simply too many, and so O'Brien himself didn't care much about them. Of the disciples he had accepted, the eldest were almost as old as him, while the youngest were comparable to Linley. There could be a gap of 5,000 years. But despite such a huge gap, they still simply viewed themselves as fellow apprentices. The Azure Dragon clan has set its roots and scattered its leaves in very many places. It's possible that two people who were born at the exact same time might be technically separated by countless generations in the family hierarchy. Barak laughed. Thus, not just in our own family, in the entire infernal realm, which generation one is in doesn't matter much. Linley nodded in agreement as well. Boss, Grandpa Beirut and I are separated by I don't even know how many generations, but I still just call him Grandpa. Bibi said. Also, Beirut's 3 sons. I just call them by their names. Bibi was a member of Beirut's clan, after all. Technically speaking, he could be considered a descendant of Harry and his brothers. But because the difference between them in the generational hierarchy was simply too great, Bibi just addressed them by their names. Haha. Ryan laughed. Linley, at first, we had headaches as well over this matter, but now we are all accustomed to it. All members of the Azure Dragon clan just address each other casually. The only thing that matters for status is one's power. If one was powerful, one would be at a higher level in the clan. Even if one was very senior in terms of the hierarchy but had remained a god despite training for trillions of years while another had trained for just 10,000 years to become a high god, one had to bow respectfully when seeing that high god. You can just address me as clan leader. As for the others, you can call them by their names. Barak laughed. Call them by their names. Linley felt that it was awkward. Of course. Hazard laughed. You've reached the god level, but most likely were born within the past 1,000 years. Dozens of years ago, I had another daughter. She is much younger than you. Are you supposed to address her as ancestor? Linley could only laugh. To these people who had unlimited lifespan, generational hierarchies really did become meaningless. Anyone who isn't directly within 3 generations of you can simply be addressed by name. Hazard said. Everyone, stop standing there. Come to the main hall. Barak laughed, and Linley followed them deeper in, chatting with everyone while walking. Linley also introduced Delia and Bibi. Clan leader. Linley asked, how many people does our Yulan branch have? A few hundred people. Barak laughed as he looked around. However, in this gorge, there are a few other branches as well. Our Yulan branch is a very small branch. But there was something which Barak had not said. That his branch was the weakest, smallest branch. Barak, you seem to be in a good mood. A teasing voice rang out. The faces of Barak and the others immediately became rather unpleasant. Linley turned to look at the source of the voice. From not too far away, a few people walked over, the leader a youth with long green hair. The youth had a rather mocking smile on his face. What happy affair has happened? Tell us and let us hear it. Ignore them. Let's go. Barak said in a low voice. Linley noticed as well that the other clansmen didn't look at that green-haired youth at all, continuing towards their residence. Barak, I'm talking to you. Why the ugly face? The green-haired youth shouted with a frown. The youths behind the green-haired youth seemed to be quite dissatisfied with Barak as well, one of them snorting, Barak, what, are you going to be so arrogant, just because you have someone supporting you? You aren't going to even pay attention to us when we speak with you. The faces of Barak, Ryan, and the others were exceedingly ugly to behold. In the Azure Dragon clan, the Yulon branch was the weakest one. When they had been brought over, they had all been saints. After undergoing the ancestral baptism and hard training, although they had made great improvements, the amount of time they had lived was simply too short, just a few thousand years. Even the strongest member of the Yulon branch was just at the god level. God. In the infernal realm, especially in an ancient clan like the Four Divine Beasts clan, if even the strongest person in a branch was still just a god, then it was all but guaranteed that this branch would be viewed in contempt, be mocked, be satire. The other branches all had many high gods. But yours only had gods. How could you compete against them? It'd be strange if you aren't mocked, for that matter. Although everyone in the gorge belonged to a fairly weak branch, at least the other branches had one high god. Mother ***, what's with all your bullshit? Bibi shouted angrily. Tarasi's face had turned grim as well, and he icily swept these people. Where have you lot come from, and why are you saying so much bullshit in our place? Those people were stunned, and then infuriated. They had never imagined that in the weakest Yulon branch, the branch which they often mocked and insulted, there would be someone who dared to be so arrogant towards them. The leading youth began to laugh from rage. Barak, your people are quite bold. They dare to insult me, Ashru Asilu. Ashru himself was a high god. In the Four Divine Beasts clan, being a high god didn't mean much. On the way over through the Dragon Avenue, Linley had seen more than 100,000 patrol soldiers, all of whom were high gods. One could thus imagine how common high gods were, here. But the Yulon branch didn't have a single high god. Thus, Ashru, as a high god, could be arrogant and unbridled in front of the Yulon branch. As for Barak and the others, they had to just endure it. Ashru, don't go too far. Barak said in a low voice. Today, we have guests. Go too far. Ashru stared. Barak, you're quite bold. You dare insult Lord Ashru. The people behind Ashru called out. By now, Tarasi and Bibi were unbelievably angry. Tarasi had never viewed an ordinary high god with any consideration. Kid. Shut your mouth. Ashru pointed angrily at Tarasi. Tarasi was enraged. Ashru laughed coldly, I know that you others are high gods. But you don't seem to be members of our Azure Dragon clan. You are permitted to stay here, where our Azure Dragon clan lives, which is already something you need to feel thankful for. But if you are to fight, the soldiers of the clan will be the first to exterminate you. Ashru had noticed long ago that Tarasi, Caesar, and the others were high gods. But he wasn't afraid, because this was the territory of the Azure Dragon clan. Through the clan emblem, he had noticed long ago that these were outsiders. Caesar, you all, no matter what, cannot fight. Barak shook his head and sent mentally, the reason you can live here is partially due to Linley's status, and partially because our clan is located in a remote region. But if you were to fight, regardless of whether you were in the right or in the wrong, the clan soldiers will always favor our clansmen. Once you start a fight, they'll kill you. Linley, look after your people. Tarasi, Caesar, and O'Brien were all stunned. Don't worry, clan leader. Linley replied. Linley then turned to look at that Ashru. Ashru was a high god. But what was an ordinary high god to him? While in the Maluto Island, when he had used the Blackstone prison, he had committed wanton slaughter when surrounded by tens of thousands of high gods. He didn't even fear tens of thousands of high gods. How could he care about this Ashru? Kid, what are you looking at? Ashru shouted. Ashru was in a very bad mood today. This weakest Yulon branch normally was shouted at and mocked by him as he pleased, without saying anything in response. But today, it seemed as though they were being rather arrogant. Ashru, right. Linley laughed. Right. Ashru raised his chin slightly. Linley, don't cause trouble. Barak was rather worried, and he hurriedly sent through divine sense, the strongest member of our Barak clan is just a god. Our branch is too weak. We can't fight with them. Clan leader, I'm a member of the clan. If I were to act against them, the army soldiers wouldn't favor them, right? Linley sent through divine sense. Barak said, they won't favor them, but you are only a Godash. Linley immediately turned to look towards Ashru. Ashru, I advise you that in the future, after today, you had best not come annoy our Yulon branch. What did you say? Ashru was flabbergasted. In the future, don't annoy us. Linley said grimly. Ashru stared at Linley, speechless, then raised his head and laughed loudly. Ha ha, even those youths behind Ashru began to laugh loudly. The Yulon branch was the weakest one in the gorge. They were always picked on and mocked by the other branches. But they were too weak. They couldn't resist at all. Kid, listen up, Ashru pointed at Linley, about to say something. But suddenly, rays of hazy earthen yellow light suddenly sprang up, enveloping Ashru and the others. Black stone space, supergravity. Ashru's body hunched over and he immediately fell to his knees. The powerful gravity caused his entire body to shudder. The people behind him were even worse, they immediately collapsed at first before then just barely standing up. I told you. In the future, don't annoy my Yulon branch. Linley's face sank, and instantly, the earthen yellow light trembled. The downwards gravitational force transformed into a repulsive force. Boom! Ashru and the others were thrown far away by that repulsive force. From far away, they stared at astonishment and fear towards Linley. Linley hadn't even moved, but he had been able to easily toy with them. The difference was too great. Linley couldn't be bothered to spare a single extra glance for Ashru's group. He turned towards Barak and said, Clan leader, let's go back. In Malogo Island, Linley had slaughtered a path through tens of thousands of high gods. How could he care about a single ordinary high god? Linley. Barak's group was completely stunned. They had yet to understand that from today onwards, the Yulon branch would never be mocked or humiliated again. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 7, The Clan's Crisis. The Azure Dragon clan's Yulon branch simply had too short a history, spanning just a few millennia. A few millennia, in the ancient history of the Four Divine Beasts clan, could be considered a single drop of water in a sea. A short history resulted in weak power. In this gorge within the Skirite Mountains, the other branches of the Azure Dragon tribe looked down on them and mocked them. This was very normal. Fortunately, the clan had very strict rules. Members of the same clan were not permitted to kill each other. This was a very severe rule. Nobody could violate it. Precisely because of this, although the Yulon branch had lived a life of some embarrassment, they weren't in any mortal danger. Barak and the others could thus just endure it. After all, if they fought back, they would just be humiliated even further. They were weaker. There was nothing they could do. But this descendant of the clan who they were welcoming back, one who had returned from the Yulon branch, had effortlessly toyed with a high god and multiple gods. Barak, Ryan, and the others all stared at Linley in disbelief. Linley. Barak stuttered. Linley looked at Barak, then laughed. Clan leader, let's hurry back. I still don't even know where I'll live. Right, right. Barak recovered from his shock. Although he didn't understand how Linley could be so powerful, Barak wouldn't ask right now. He immediately laughed, let's go back. The other clansmen of the Yulon branch all stared at Linley in amazement. This descendant was too strong. What are you looking at? Bibi's voice rang out. What? Can it be that after the lesson my boss just taught you, you haven't had enough? You want to test him again? Linley turned to look. Ashru and the others were staring towards Linley with gazes full of shock and fear. They couldn't believe that this was real. Ashru. Linley spoke out. You and I are both members of the Azure Dragon clan. We are all members of the Redding clan. Since we are all members of the clan, fighting amongst ourselves will just result in ridicule from others. Ashru was stunned. The Yulon branch is also a member of the Redding clan. Linley laughed calmly. I'm a member of the Yulon branch, and also a member of the Redding clan. I don't want to see you causing trouble for us in the future. If something like that happens, then I wouldn't mind giving you a good lesson. O'Brien, Caesar, Tarasi, and the others were all laughing off to the side. They knew exactly how powerful Linley was. During the great battle at Malogo Island, Linley's power had been completely revealed and was unquestionable. Let's go. Linley held Delia's hand, then followed Barak, Ryan, and the other members of the clan towards the abode of the Yulon branch. The only ones left were Ashru and the others. Lord Ashru, this, a youth behind Ashru said, his face filled with disbelief, shock, and anger. Ashru's face was gloomy. Who would have thought that an expert would appear amongst the Yulon branch? Ashru said in a low voice. But he's just a god. Someone immediately said. Ashru shook his head. Impossible. That gravitational space was powerful to an unheard of level. In such a powerful gravity, he would definitely be able to effortlessly kill us. Only an extremely powerful high god could possibly train the gravitational space to such a high level. How powerful? The gods behind him were all puzzled. 6-star fiend. Perhaps 7-star fiend. Ashru said in a low voice. Immediately, those gods were completely stupefied. These people, when encountering a high god, were normally all very respectful. Generally speaking, high gods were at the 4-star fiend level of power. Anyone capable of reaching the 6-star fiend or 7-star fiend level had a high status in the clan. But we noticed that he was just a god. Another blue-haired youth said hurriedly. Ashru turned and glanced at him mockingly, then turned and left, not paying attention to that god at all. What did I say wrong? The blue-haired man was still lost. Can't you guess that he was hiding his aura and just pretending? Another god snickered. Let's go. I can't imagine how this short-lived Yulon branch actually produced such a powerful expert. While still muttering amongst themselves, those gods all left. Linley knew very well that even two brothers of the same mother, much less branches of the same clan, would possibly struggle with each other for status. The weak would be looked down upon and embarrassed. This was normal. The high-level members of the Redding family don't care about this. First, it's not convenient to interfere. And secondly, they are probably satisfied with the situation. Linley understood that when the weak were viewed in contempt, this anger at being humiliated would serve as a powerful motivation for the clan to grow stronger. Perhaps an expert would appear. In the end, the rules of the clan prohibited clansmen from killing each other. With this rule in place, there would be no fear of the clan losing its power. Only when there is competition, when there is a differentiation between the high and the low levels will there be improvement. Linley sighed. Unfortunately, his Yulon branch had become the weakest branch. Its roots were weak and its history was short. There was nothing that could be done. Linley, on the other side of the grass is our Yulon branch's residence. Barak pointed towards the front. Linley, looking in that direction, saw that at the end of the short grass, there were multiple 2-story buildings, as all a palace which took up a very wide amount of space. When Linley's group passed through the grass, quite a few men and women came to welcome them, including 2 children. Clan leader. The group all hurriedly welcomed them. Haha, hurry up and prepare a feast for celebrating Linley's arrival. Barak laughed loudly. Clan leader, who is Linley? Nobody here recognized Linley. Linley looked carefully at this group of people. All of them had an aura which felt so familiar to his soul. These were people from his clan, people of his blood. Our Barak clan has so few people in the Yulan continent, but in the infernal realm, we are much more populous. All of them in the infernal realm possessed unlimited lifespan. Naturally, their numbers would continuously grow. Who is Linley? Barak immediately laughed. He is someone from our Yulan branch. He came over from the Yulan continent. Ryan added. Look closely. He is Linley. Don't misrecognize him in the future. As he spoke, he rested his hand on Linley's shoulder. Immediately, everyone looked towards Linley while a commotion broke out. He came from the Yulan continent. He actually came from the Yulan continent. Hey, Linley, how's our Barak clan doing? Linley, do you know Bozart Bosite? He's my son. The group of them all excitedly asked questions non-stop. In the infernal realm, they were the weakest branch of the four divine beasts clan. In the Yulan continent, however, they were the dragon blood warrior clan which had dominated the continent. The humiliation which they now had to endure naturally made them think all the more of their glory days in the Yulan continent. They were filled with longing for the Yulan continent. If all of you ask questions en masse like this, how is Linley going to respond? Barak snorted coldly. Enough of this. Hurry up and prepare a banquet. Today, every member of our Yulan branch is going to get together for the banquet. During the banquet itself, you can ask your questions. I'll go arrange the banquet. Immediately, a brown-haired woman laughed while flashing Linley a smile. Not just this woman, many of the other members of the clan were all smiling towards Linley. They naturally were very welcoming towards their clansmen who had come from the Yulan continent. The clan's banquet was attended by every single member of the Yulan branch. Hundreds of people thus squeezed into the palace, but fortunately, the palace was very large, allowing everyone a place to sit. During the course of the banquet, the atmosphere was very lively. After all, of the hundreds of people present, only a few dozen actually came from the Yulan continent. The others had been born in the infernal realm. They were thus very curious regarding the root of the Yulan branch, the Yulan continent. As for the ones who had actually come from the Yulan continent, such as Barak, Ryan, and the others, they were also very interested in learning the situation of the descendants of their clan. This entire banquet all but turned into a storytelling time for Linley, Caesar, and the others, and Caesar and O'Brien talked non-stop regarding all sorts of matters which had occurred in the Yulan continent. At the same time, they also told the story of how Linley had risen to sudden prominence in the Yulan continent. Master Sculptor, Grand Mega Saint, Dragon Blood Warrior. Linley's story caused many of the descendants of the clan in the infernal realm to be filled with envy. Although they, too, were powerful, in the four divine beasts clan, they were just the bottom tier. How could they compare to Linley's resplendence? By the time the banquet concluded, it was dark. Only now did the group of clansmen part from Linley. Ryan led Linley and the others to their residence. Linley, these 3 buildings are for you all to live in. You make the arrangements for who lives where. Ryan said warmly. Right. No need to trouble you. I'll make the arrangements. Linley laughed. Ryan smiled, then left, while Linley, Delia, BB, O'Brien, the group finally let out sighs of relief. The banquet finally came to an end. O'Brien laughed, then let out a sigh. Despite having been in the infernal realm for so long, I've never spoken so much in one breath. Linley, these clansmen of yours truly are quite curious regarding the Yulan continent. The vast majority of them have never been to the Yulan continent before. Of course they are curious. Linley laughed. Enough. Everyone, go get some rest. Everyone can choose their own residence. In the end, Linley, Delia, and BB took one building, Olivier, O'Brien, Caesar, and Tarasi took a second building, while Dylan and his two sons took a building. A quiet night. Linley and Delia were in each other's arms on the bed, smiles on their faces. "Linley, are you very happy right now?" Delia said softly. "Right." Thinking back to the banquet that day, and that scene of how those clansmen all asked him all sorts of questions, Linley couldn't help but laugh. "When I was with those clansmen, I felt as though I returned to a large family. It truly was wonderful. If my father could see them as well, he definitely would feel very happy and very content." Linley still remembered how his father had dreamed all his life to restore the clan to glory. His dying wish was that the weapon of the clan leader, Barak, be returned. "Right. If your father knew, he would definitely be very happy," Delia said. "If your father knew what you had done over these years, he would definitely be very proud." Delia rested her head against Linley's chest. Linley held Delia in his arms. "I rather miss Sasha and Taylor," Delia said. Linley couldn't help but think of his own son and daughter. Who knew what was going on back in the Yulon continent? "Delia," Linley suddenly said. "What is it?" Delia raised her head. "Let's try and see if we can have another one, shall we? Maybe we'll succeed," Linley said slyly. Delia was startled, and then her face reddened as she looked at Linley. Linley chortled, then lowered his head to kiss Delia. "Done." Linley got out of bed and headed to his residence's gate. The morning air is excellent. Linley watched as the fog swirled around in the gorge. From afar, various buildings could dimly be seen, and that coiling Dragon Avenue could be seen in the skies. Given his visual acuity, he was able to even see those patrol warriors on Dragon Avenue. "This is my four divine beasts clan," Linley sighed in his heart. Linley suddenly had a feeling, and he turned to look. Not far away, a figure was walking towards him. It was the clan leader of the Yulon branch, Barak. Barak's face was covered in smiles. "Linley." "Clan leader." Linley hurriedly went to greet him. "Come. Let's find a place to chat. There's something I need to discuss with you," Barak said. "How about right here at my place?" Linley said. Barak glanced around, then nodded. "Might as well. There's no outsiders here at your place. No need to worry about others overhearing." Linley was rather surprised. From what Barak was saying, it seemed as though they were going to discuss a rather important matter. Linley immediately led Barak towards his own living place, then to a study within. Linley and Barak both sat down. "Clan leader, you can go ahead," Linley said. Barak looked towards Linley. Pausing a moment, he then said, "Linley, first tell me, are you a god or a high god?" Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 8, The Secrets of the Ancestral Baptism. Asking about his strength. Linley looked at Barak. After a momentary pause, he said, "I am a god." A look of surprise appeared on Barak's face, and then he immediately sighed in praise. "Linley, you, a god, were able to effortlessly defeat that Ashura. This is simply inconceivable. How did you accomplish this?" Linley, for a moment, didn't know how to reply. The reason why he, a god, was so powerful actually had many components. Oh. Barak seemed to have realized that he had asked a question that he shouldn't have asked. He laughed. "Enough about that. Since you are so formidable as a god, once you become a high god, you will definitely become a true expert of our Azure Dragon clan. Since that's the case, there are some things which I will tell you in advance." Linley listened intently. "These affairs, our Azure Dragon clan generally won't tell some of the weaker clansmen." Barak sighed. Linley couldn't help but feel puzzled. Weak people? But the clan leader himself is just a god. How does he know? As Linley said it, in the Four Divine Beasts clan, the Barak clan was indeed a very weak, Small clan. Beric just continued. Linley, do you know how resplendent and glorious our four divine beasts clan was in the past? I know. Linley nodded. I read a book introducing the four divine beasts clan. In the past, the power of the four divine beasts clan spread across all four higher planes and multiple divine planes. But it seems as though 10,000 years ago, all of our clan's forces withdrew from the other planes and regrouped here in the infernal realm. Right. Beric sighed. Our four divine beasts clan's power was spread across the four higher planes. But do you know why our clan was so powerful to begin with? Linley shook his head. Linley was puzzled about this as well. Why were they so mighty? Let me tell you. The reason our four divine beasts clan was, in the past, so strong, was because, Beric's eyes shone, and his breathing became more ragged as well. His face also turned red from excitement. The ancestors of our four divine beasts clan were four sovereigns. What? Linley felt completely stunned. Clan leader, what did you just say? Sovereigns. Did I mishear? Linley said hurriedly. Sovereigns were far above all other life forms, whom they gazed down at from up above. Even the most powerful infernal asuras or purgatory commanders, in front of a sovereign, were like ants. With but a thought, a sovereign could kill an asura. The ancestors of his clan were sovereigns. The ancestors of the four divine beasts clan were four sovereigns? Right? You heard correctly. Beric said solemnly. The ancestors of our four divine beasts clan were four sovereigns. The four mighty sovereigns were a very tight-knit group, and the descendants of their four divine beasts clan, which they raised, were naturally powerful to begin with. When they were present, the assistance the four ancestors provided allowed their clan to dominate the major planes with utter invincibility. Linley felt as though his mind was in a state of chaos. Sovereign. And four of them. It must be understood that the seven elements of earth, fire, water, wind, lightning, light, and darkness, each only had 7 sovereigns. The sovereigns were scattered throughout the various divine planes and 4 higher planes. And, for creatures as proud as them, it was very hard for alliances to form. But 4 sovereigns had joined forces. It would be a strange thing if the 4 divine beasts clan wasn't mighty. Most likely, the other sovereigns also wouldn't be willing to offend these 4 sovereigns without a good reason. The ancestor of our Azure Dragon clan was a water-type sovereign. The ancestor of the White Tiger clan was a wind-type sovereign, while the ancestor of the Vermilion Bird clan was a fire-type sovereign. As for the Black Tortoise clan's ancestor, that was an earth-type sovereign. Beric said solemnly. Linley's mind was reeling. Sovereigns were so far above them, and yet behind the 4 divine beasts clan, there had been 4 sovereigns. It would be impossible for the 4 divine beasts clan to be weak, even if they wanted to be. If that was still the case, our 4 divine beasts clan would still be invincible throughout the various planes. But all of this changed, roughly 11,000 years ago. Beric said. Linley also knew that roughly 10,000 years ago, a tremendous change happened to the 4 divine beasts clan. What type of change, exactly, had caused his clan to fall? For all 4 of the sovereigns' clans to simultaneously weaken, there was, most likely, just one possible explanation. The power backing the 4 divine beasts clan had been destroyed. As he thought of this possibility, Linley found it to be unbelievable. Who could possibly defeat 4 mighty sovereigns? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Although he thought this, he still looked at Beric, waiting for Beric's answer. The 4 ancestors are all dead. Beric said hoarsely. Linley couldn't help but stop breathing. So that really was the case. 4 sovereigns, all died. How is that possible? Linley said hurriedly. To kill a sovereign, one had to at least be at the sovereign level, but the 4 ancestors of the 4 divine beasts clan represented 4 full sovereigns. Who could kill 4 sovereigns? They did indeed perish. Beric said helplessly. Although we don't know the reason for their death, there is no question about the fact that the four ancestors are dead. And precisely because the four ancestors are dead, our four divine beasts clan's moment of crisis arrived. Crisis? Linley frowned. Right. Beric furrowed his forehead in worry. The four ancestors were all on very good terms with each other. The four of them, all sovereigns, had existed for countless years, causing the four divine beasts clan and its members to be extremely arrogant and overbearing. Linley nodded to himself. With four sovereigns as ancestors, how could the four divine beasts clan not be arrogant? Wherever there are people, there are struggles. Because of their arrogance, because of their power. In the past, when the four divine beasts clan struggled against other clans, the four divine beasts clan would naturally be rather overbearing. Beric said. Linley understood. After countless years, naturally there would often be battle and struggles. The four divine beasts clan had a number of enemies, but the four divine beasts clan never cared, because they were so powerful, they didn't fear their enemies. Beric shook his head. But then, the four ancestors died. Beric looked towards Linley. The clans which dared struggle against the four divine beasts clan, even if they were weaker, wouldn't be too much weaker. Linley nodded in acknowledgement. Those clans, in their own planes, were all very formidable. But compared to the four divine beasts clan, there was still quite some difference. After all, behind the four divine beasts clan were four sovereigns. But once the four sovereigns died. Beric shook his head and sighed. Linley began to understand. Those clans, in the past, had simply been humiliated too much by the four divine beasts clan. Beric shook his head. Once the four sovereigns died, these clans no longer had any more misgivings. They immediately, wildly began to assault the four divine beasts clan. Linley took a deep breath. He could completely imagine the scene. Thus, the forces of the four divine beasts clan immediately withdrew, and the descendants in all the planes immediately withdrew and regrouped to the infernal realm. Beric said solemnly. 10,000 years ago, just during the withdrawal process, the number of high gods which died was an astonishing figure. Even many 6-star fiends and 7-star fiends died. Linley's heart shuddered. The four divine beasts clan is strong, extremely strong. Beric said. Originally, when the four ancestors were alive, they naturally cultivated their descendants, causing the four divine beasts clan to produce many experts, 7-star fiends, and even Azura-level experts. Linley understood this. The four sovereigns had cultivated their descendants for countless years. Given that the four divine beasts clansmen were naturally blessed with gifts to begin with, it made sense for them to be mighty. If they weren't mighty, how could they have dominated the many other planes? After all, to dominate the other planes, the power of the ancestors was just one aspect. The many powerful experts which the four divine beasts clan held was another aspect. They were powerful, but they couldn't overcome the superior numbers of their enemies, and in addition, their enemies were also powerful. Beric sighed. The worst part was, 8 of the clans who had held the deepest grudges against and had the most hatred for the four divine beasts clan ended up actually slaughtering a path into the infernal realm. They attacked here in the infernal realm. Linley was astonished. Right. Those clans actually moved their entire clans to the infernal realm in pursuit of the four divine beasts clan. Beric said. Linley was completely stunned. Amongst them is the Barbary Babali clan which attacked from the divine water plane, the Dindaen clan from the divine earth plane, the Adrike Idalike clan from the higher plane of the life realm, the Venawen clan of the divine wind plane, the Ashcroft Ashikalugo Futi clan of the netherworld, the Chanel Shen Neier clan of the divine fire plane, and also the Bullen clan of the celestial realm. Beric said solemnly. Linley was completely dazed. The transportation fee for moving between high-level planes was astronomical. To move an entire clan would require an astonishingly amount of wealth, but these families were able to accomplish it, which was a testament to their wealth. In addition, they were willing to move from their own planes to the infernal realm. One could imagine how great their hatred was. There were, in total, 7 major clans. Aside from these 7 clans, in the infernal realm, there was one clan already present who had great enmity against our 4 divine beasts clan. This is the Rainales clan. Barak said. Linley sighed to himself. They even had enemies on their own lands. Not a single one of these 8 major clans are weaker than our Azure Dragon clan. Barak said solemnly. Linley felt bitterness in his heart. None of them were weaker than the Azure Dragon clan. Linley knew that in the 4 Divine Beasts clan, the Azure Dragon clan was the leader. Even if theoretically all 4 of the 4 Divine Beasts clans were equal in power, allied together, they still couldn't overcome the 8 clans of the enemies. The 8 clans joined forces. Doesn't that mean we shouldn't have been able to resist? Linley was puzzled. If none of them were weaker than the Azure Dragon clan, once the 8 joined forces, how could the 4 Divine Beasts clan possibly resist? Right. We couldn't resist. Barak said. However, we had the help of the Lord Prefect of the Indigo Prefecture. The Lord Prefect of Indigo Prefecture. Linley was surprised. The Lord Prefect of a prefecture was an Azura. The Lord Prefect of Indigo Prefecture has 4 powerful emissaries under his command, each of whom is exceedingly powerful. In addition, the Lord Prefect of Indigo Prefecture also controls the prefecture army. Barak said. The Lord Prefect forbade the 8 clans from attacking the Skirite Mountains. If battles occurred outside of the Skirite Mountains, however, he wouldn't interfere. Linley now understood. If the enemies had agreed, then the 4 Divine Beasts clan wouldn't be completely destroyed, at least. They had to just hide within the Skirite Mountains. But the 4 Divine Beasts clan couldn't possibly stay forever within the mountain without leaving. As soon as they left, they would suffer attacks. The 8 clans obeyed the Lord Prefect of Indigo Prefecture. Linley was puzzled. Of these 8 clans, 7 came from other planes, and each of them was very powerful. These 8 major clans would care about a single Lord Prefect? But of course, behind the Lord Prefect was a large number of prefecture soldiers. The 8 clans obeyed. Barak laughed. All these years, they truly have never attacked the Skirite Mountains. Linley was secretly shocked at the influence of the Lord Prefect of Indigo Prefecture. The Lord Prefect of Indigo Prefecture was actually willing to assist our 4 Divine Beasts clan. Linley sighed to himself. I'm not clear as to the reason why, myself. There is probably a deep secret hidden within. Barak said. Perhaps this was the reason why our 4 Divine Beasts clan withdrew back to Indigo Prefecture to begin with. Linley nodded. But our clan can't always be trapped within the mountains. Barak sighed. Thus, battles still occur quite often. In addition, once they begin, they only end with one party's death. Either you die or I die. Linley remembered clearly that scene he had encountered when he had first arrived at Indigo Prefecture, where the Bullen clan had engaged in a wild slaughter. Only now did Linley understand that the Bullen clan was one of those 8 clans, and was from the celestial realm. Linley, you are powerful. Once you become a high god, you will definitely become a formidable warlord for our clan. Thus, I want to warn you in advance about this, so that you will continue to train hard. Barak said. Understood. Linley nodded. I'm just afraid that something terrible will happen to you in those battles, haha, I'm thinking too much. Barak immediately shook his head and laughed. You haven't even undergone the ancestral baptism, and yet you are so powerful. Once you undergo the ancestral baptism, you will definitely become even mightier. Ancestral baptism. Linley was extremely curious regarding this. Clan leader, what exactly is an ancestral baptism, and what does it do? Barak laughed. The ancestral baptism is actually a process which truly guides out the innate ability of our Azure Dragon clan. As members of the Azure Dragon clan, we all are at least capable of assuming the Azure Dragon form. But as a clan descended from a divine beast, we have to at least be capable of an innate divine ability as well, right? Azure Dragon form. Innate divine ability. Linley was rather stunned. The Four Divine Beasts clan was a clan of divine beasts. Naturally, they had their own innate divine abilities. However, although we belong to the Azure Dragon clan, only the ancestor was a true Azure Dragon. We, his descendants, don't have as pure a blood lineage as he had. Thus, there are differences in our Azure Dragon form, and we have varying levels of strength in our innate divine ability as well. Barak said. Varying levels of strength. Linley frowned. Right. The more of the blood of the ancestor which flows in our veins, the more pure that blood is, then the more powerful the Azure Dragon form will be. The innate divine ability will also grow to be more powerful. Barak said. But unfortunately, after so many generations, the blood lineage of the descendants has grown rather thin. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 9, 80 years. As they discussed this, Barak actually laughed. But the strange thing is, my bloodline is actually extremely pure. When undergoing the ancestral baptism, I actually badly startled those warriors on guard there, and was received by the elder. Your bloodline is very pure. Linley looked at Barak. Barak was just 6,000 years old, while the Four Divine Beasts clan had been in existence for countless years. It was indeed quite bizarre for Barak's bloodline to be so pure. Generally speaking, the children of our ancestor, in particular the second and third generation members of our Azure Dragon clan, will have an extremely pure lineage. But unexpectedly, my bloodlines are actually comparable with the second generation. Barak didn't hide anything at all. The second generation of the Azure Dragon clan was composed of the sons and daughters of the Azure Dragon Sovereign. The children of the Azure Dragon Sovereign naturally had very pure bloodlines. The members of the third generation who had great innate talent could also be compared to the second generation. But as for the later generations, perhaps occasionally, in one generation, a genius would appear with extremely pure Azure Dragon lineage. But this was a vanishingly rare occurrence. Barak, however, was one such example. This is also precisely the case as to why that elder told me these things regarding our clan. Barak said. So that was how it was. Linley now understood. Up till now, he had been puzzled at how Barak knew these things. Actually, the affairs of our ancestor as well those 8 clans isn't much of a secret. In the clan, everyone with pure bloodlines, high potential, or are at the high god level will all know about these things. Barak said solemnly. After all, clan warfare occurs frequently. Linley nodded. I could sense that when I saw those patrolling guards. The strictness and severity of the vigilance of the Four Divine Beasts clan was far greater than that of the patrols on Malogo Island. Linley, your natural talent is definitely better than even mine. Barak's eyes were shining. You haven't even undergone the ancestral baptism, but you are already so powerful. After you undergo it, you'll then gain insights into the elemental laws of water. Insights into the elemental laws of water. Linley said in astonishment. He currently had only gained insights into the earth, the wind, and fire. He didn't have any insights whatsoever into the other elemental laws. Barak said solemnly, right. Our Azure Dragon clan is the clan of a water-type divine beast. If the members of our clan aren't even able to understand the elemental laws of water, then we would be jokes. Currently, you aren't able to gain insights into it, but that's only because your lineage hasn't been fully awakened. After you enter the Dragonize pool and undergo the ancestral baptism, you will naturally be transformed into an Azure Dragon, while at the same time, you will naturally and immediately reach the demigod level in the laws of water. In addition, you will also gain our innate divine ability. Linley was completely stunned. In the past, when Linley had watched how divine beasts would naturally become deities after reaching adulthood, he would secretly sigh at how naturally blessed they were. But he hadn't expected that the same was true for himself. I can become an azure dragon, and not only gain an innate divine ability, I'll also become a deity in water. Linley couldn't help but feel joy in his heart. Most likely, in the infernal realm, there are very few people who have 5 divine clones, including my original body. Once he underwent the ancestral baptism, he would have the earth clone, fire clone, water clone, wind clone, and original body. 5 bodies. Since birth, he had high elemental affinity for earth and wind, and he was also able to somewhat use fire. But now, he would also have water. We are the Azure Dragon clan. Barak said proudly. Training in the elemental laws of water will be extremely fast. Look at me. Although my understanding and ability to gain insights is poor, in just a few thousand years, I've already gained insights into 5 of the profound mysteries of the elemental laws of water. I'm not too far away from the high god level. Linley couldn't help but be astonished. For a person to gain insights and master 5 of the profound mysteries of the elemental laws of water in just a few thousand years was indeed very fast. The heavens have indeed been quite kind to the Azure Dragon clan. Linley said to himself. Clan leader, I haven't undergone the ancestral baptism yet. Then, how can I undergo it? Linley hurriedly asked. The ancestral baptism would allow himself to increase in power. Naturally, the sooner he experienced it, the better. Don't be impatient. Barak laughed. The ancestral baptism is carried out within the clan only once every century. Although the clan is very large, every 100 years, there will still be some newborn descendants. Thus, they'll be allowed to undergo the ancestral baptism. Oh. Linley hurriedly asked, then when will the next ancestral baptism be? The last one was 20 years ago. Thus, if you want to undergo the ancestral baptism, you'll need to wait 80 years. Barak said. 80 years. Linley wasn't in a rush. Ever since he had stayed 500 years in the Amethyst Mountains, Linley no longer cared too much about the passage of time. A single session of meditation, after closing his eyes, 80 years might pass before he would open them again. Linley, in the future, you will be very powerful. Thus, your responsibilities will also be great. Our 4 Divine Beasts clan is currently battling against those 8 great clans. You will definitely become a powerful warlord for our clan. Thus, you need to work hard. Only in this way will you be able to survive in the dangerous battles of the future. Barak said solemnly. And Linley nodded seriously as well. In the 8 great clans, 7 were from other planes. They had moved their entire clans over, pursuing and attacking the 4 Divine Beasts clan. One could imagine how deep their hatred was for the 4 Divine Beasts clan. However, given the arrogance of the 4 Divine Beasts clan, there was no way they could forever hide within the Skirite Mountains. The struggles and battles between them thus naturally happened all the time. The warfare between the 4 Divine Beasts clan and the 8 great clans, as soon as Linley got involved, he would begin to experience a true rain of blood and storm of slaughter. I need to train hard. Linley said to himself. Indigo Prefecture, Skirite Mountains. It was as calm and peaceful as ever. Perhaps the army of the 4 Divine Beasts clan would be sent out to battle and war against the 8 great clans, but Linley's group who lived deep within the Skirite Mountains knew nothing of these things. The peaceful days spent in training passed very quickly. 60 years soon passed. On this day, in the Skirite Mountains, the gorge where Linley's group was currently living, the many members of the Azure Dragon clan living here were either training or gathering together. Let's go to the Yulon branch and tease those little fellows. Want to come? In one corner of the gorge, 6 youths were gathered together, and one of them, a blue-haired man, laughed as he spoke. I'm not going. I'm not going either. The other 5 men all shook their heads, and one of them even said, "Second brother, don't go cause trouble at the Yulon branch. What's wrong with you? How come all of you are so cowardly now? It's just the Yulon branch. Their strongest members are just gods. What are you afraid of?" The blue-haired man was rather unhappy. "Second brother, in the past, it was fine to cause problems for the Yulon branch, but what you don't realize is that in the centuries you've been in seclusion, there have been changes in the Yulon branch." "What sort of changes?" The blue-haired man snickered. "Can it be that in just a few centuries, they produced a high god? A few centuries ago, their entire branch only had 12 gods. Aside from that Barak who trains a bit faster, the others are all very slow. Can it be that Barak has become a high god? It's not Barak. 60 years ago, another member of our clan returned and said that he was of the Yulon branch. The tribesmen all took him to be a god, but he was able to just stand there without moving and send Ashura flying." The blue-haired youth couldn't help but be stunned. "Did you say Ashura? Not just Ashura?" "When we heard this from Ashura, we didn't believe it. So, we went with elder brother to make some trouble for him, but, even elder brother was easily defeated by that Linley." "Elder brother?" The blue-haired man was now truly stunned. "My elder brother was defeated as well." "Right. Thus, elder brother is now meditating in seclusion." Another one of the 5 spoke out. Only now did the blue-haired man realize that this was the reason he hadn't seen his elder brother this time upon concluding his training. He had thought that his elder brother had gone traveling. So in reality, he was in seclusion. This person truly is powerful. The blue-haired man asked, puzzled. "What is his name?" "From what the Yulon branch's people say, he is named Linley." Someone immediately said. "Right. His name is Linley." Those Yulon branch members are now very smug. They even say, that if we want to struggle against the Yulon branch, then we should come and see if we can beat Linley. Unfortunately, all of the high gods in our gorge who tested him were defeated. Thus, in the past 60 years, nobody has dared to cause trouble for the Yulon branch again. After hearing the explanation from his friends, the blue-haired man finally understood. This gorge was a place where very weak branches lived. Many branches had just a few high gods, and the entire gorge, all combined, only had 20 or 30 high gods. But Linley was able to defeat several of them. Naturally, the other branches in the gorge would acknowledge the new status of the Yulon branch and not go humiliate them. After all, if instead of humiliating them, they were themselves humiliated, that would truly be a loss of face. Suddenly, a surge of endless ripples descended from the heavens. That unique energy ripple caused the blue-haired man and the other 5 to be startled. The descent of the natural laws. The 6 men were greatly shocked. This was the sign of a person becoming a deity on their own. The 6 immediately began to chat amongst themselves. Who made a breakthrough? The descent of the natural laws was centered on the Yulon branch. It was someone from their branch. It's probably that saint, finally breaking through to become a demigod. No need for all this commotion. The blue-haired man snickered. Currently, quite a few people were gathered outside Linley's door, with only Delia and Bibi having run inside. What's going on? Barak walked over and immediately asked. Tarasi laughed. Linley made a breakthrough. He's become a high god. Barak immediately asked through divine sense. Up till now, many of the other people in the Yulon branch viewed Linley as a high god, just one who was low-key and hid his aura. Not sure. Tarasi shook his head. He shouldn't have. When Linley first arrived, he was still meditating on the 5th profound mystery of the laws of the earth. While they chatted amongst themselves, 3 figures emerged from within the room. He came out. Linley came out. The Yulon branch's clansmen were all very excited. "Everyone, you can go back to your own places now. I just made a breakthrough in one of my divine clones, that's all." Linley laughed calmly. Seeing the group of clansmen present, especially the look of veneration with which they viewed him, Linley still felt quite happy. After having arrived here, Linley naturally wouldn't just watch as his clansmen were humiliated. Thus, on multiple occasions, he had shown his might, shocking the other branches. These days, the Yulon branch no longer needed to endure humiliation. These other clansmen naturally felt gratitude towards Linley. "Everyone can disperse now. Don't stay here." Barak laughed as well. Only now did the group of clansmen, chatting and laughing amongst themselves, depart. While doing so, they said amongst themselves, "Linley is so formidable. What clone do you think made the breakthrough?" "Most likely, a divine destruction clone. It might be his divine wind clone." Those other clansmen weren't clear about Linley's detailed situation. They weren't even sure as to what type of laws Linley was currently training in. "Linley, what breakthrough did you make?" Caesar went up to him, greeting and asking him. "Divine fire clone." Linley laughed at himself. "Only now have I finally reached the god level in my divine fire clone. I truly am slow in training in fire." Caesar, Tarasi, and the others were immediately speechless. He had been training for less than 1,000 years, but had reached the god level in earth, wind, and fire, and he was complaining that he was slow? "How is your training in the laws of the earth progressing?" Tarasi asked. "Still training in the fifth profound mystery. I've reached a bottleneck. I wonder if I'll be able to completely master the profound mysteries of strength before the ancestral baptism." Linley said. Only a decade or two was left before the next ancestral baptism. 10 or so years, to deities, was a very short period of time. Linley's original body accompanied Delia, while his 3 divine clones were completely absorbed in their training. But even after the day of the ancestral baptism was about to arrive, the profound mysteries of strength remained stuck at the bottleneck. On this day, nearly 80 years had passed since Linley had arrived at the Skirite Mountains. In front of Linley's residence, Barak was walking over. "Linley, tonight, the ancestral baptism is about to begin. I've already registered your name for it. Soon, you'll most likely be led away by others to participate in the ancestral baptism. Make your preparations." "Understood." Linley's eyes couldn't help but be filled with a look of anticipation. The ancestral baptism. What exactly was it like? Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 10, Dragonai's Pool. The skies were dark. It was already sundown. Tonight, the ancestral baptism was going to begin. Within the gorge in the Skirite Mountains, Linley was patiently waiting. Just a short while later, Linley saw a warrior dressed in azure armor fly over from the air. "Who is Linley?" the azure-armored warrior shouted. Linley felt a surge of joy. He immediately went up to greet the man. "I am Linley." Linley laughed. The azure-armored warrior glanced at Linley. After a short, careful scrutinization, he couldn't help but frown and bark, "Stop joking around. Everyone who goes to the ancestral baptism is less than a century old. You are a god. Can it be that you are less than a century old? Quick, go have Linley come out." Linley didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. It seemed as though he had been taken for an impostor. "I am Linley. I had been living in other planes, and only returned to the Skirite Mountains just 80 years ago." Linley explained. "Thus, up till now, I have yet to participate in the ancestral baptism." "Oh." The azure-armored warrior was rather puzzled. At this moment, watching from below, Barak, Delia, Bibi, and the others also didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. The azure-armored warrior actually didn't believe Linley was who he said he was. Barak himself immediately flew up towards that azure armored warrior. It's true. He is indeed Linley. He wasn't born in our Skirite mountains, which is why to this very day, he has yet to undergo the ancestral baptism. The azure armored warrior glanced at Linley, then let out a cold snort. I'll believe you for now. But, kid, you better understand, if you've already undergone an ancestral baptism, undergoing a second baptism will be of no use to you. And, if you were to be found out to be an impostor, you will be in trouble. Enough. Let's go. The azure armored warrior immediately flew high into the sky. Linley turned his head to say his farewells to Delia and Bibi, then immediately followed. They flew up into the Dragon Avenue, and followed it. Linley kept close behind the azure armored warrior as they advanced non-stop. After flying for quite some time by the side of this azure armored warrior, the two arrived at the top of a pitch-black mountain peak. At the top of the mountain peak, there were multiple azure armored guards, a bald, black-robed man, as well as 10 or so young men and women. "Milord, Linley has been brought here." The azure armored warrior flew over and immediately said respectfully. The bald, black-robed man glanced sideways at Linley, nodded, then instructed the warrior, "Enough. You can leave now." The black-robed man looked at Linley. "Linley, wait here for a while. When everyone is present, we'll go in." "Yes." Linley stood there with the other 10 or so people. These people are all just saints. Linley could immediately tell that these youngsters were very suspicious, and they looked at Linley in surprise. They were amazed to discover that they actually couldn't see Linley's power. This person isn't a saint. Those young men and women were all puzzled. For someone who had been born less than a century ago, especially a descendant of the Azure Dragon clan, it wasn't very likely that they would be able to become a deity on their own without having undergone the ancestral baptism. Linley just waited there quietly, as one young man after another was led here by azure armored warriors. A total of 28. All present. The bald, black-robed man nodded slightly, then said calmly, "Enough. Little fellows, all follow me. Remember, without my permission, you aren't allowed to run around wildly." As he spoke, the bald, black-robed man led them all into a corridor within the mountain peak. The outsides of the entrance to the corridor were all covered with draconic sculptures. The entire corridor led downwards, deep into the heart of the mountain. This corridor was nearly 6 meters wide and 4 meters tall. It was very rectangular, while at the same time the walls of the corridor had some ancient sculptures as well. The floor was covered with a woven carpet. Linley just quietly followed the bald, black-robed man. "Hey, you're already a deity." A jade-haired girl walking alongside Linley couldn't resist her curiosity, and so she asked the question in a soft voice. Linley turned to glance at her. He chuckled, but only nodded in response. The jade-haired girl's eyes immediately lit up, and were filled with a look of adoration. "You are so amazing. You've never undergone the ancestral baptism, but you were able to become a deity in under a century." Even the other youths who were taking part in the ancestral baptism turned to look at Linley with either veneration, or surprise, or jealousy. Less than a century? He had passed the century mark long ago. However, in the Yulan continent, when he had become a deity on his own, it was true that at that time, he had been training for less than a century. "Pipe down!" the bald, black-robed man shouted icily. Immediately, those 12 saints were so scared, they didn't dare say another word. Linley's expression didn't change. "This bald fellow has quite the temper." Linley continued to walk and follow him. Moments later, they arrived at the end of the corridor, which had a wide hall past it with quite a few black-robed figures within. "All here." One of the black-robed men went to welcome them. A total of 28. All present. The bald, black-robed man said. "You watch them for a while. I'll go invite the two elders to activate the Dragon's pool. Right. Do you know where the two elders are, right now? The black-robed man said. The bald, black-robed man said, puzzled, could it be that they haven't arrived yet? They arrived. But the two elders just went into a private room. They even said that without their permission, nobody is permitted to enter. The black-robed man was puzzled. They are in the private room in the Eastern Palace Hall. I'll go take a look. The bald, black-robed man immediately walked over. Deep within the mountain, in a private room in the Eastern Palace Hall, two figures were currently standing, shoulder to shoulder. One of them had a hawk-hooked nose, a balding head, two drooping sideburns, and a pair of eyes that were as grim and callous as a viper's. The other was very handsome, with long hair that flowed down his back. The two were both dressed in azure armor that was embroidered with gold patterns, as well as a cloak that was covered with strange, peculiar magic runes which flowed with all sorts of faint light. They were currently focusing their attention on watching a scryer recording that currently being broadcast, floating in the air within the private room. Formidable. The bald man couldn't help but sigh in praise. Even you and I probably wouldn't be able to so easily block that blade blow. The handsome man sighed in praise as well. The scryer recording currently being played, amazingly, was the scene of Linley's battle in the skies above Mologo Island. The scene which had just caused the two to sigh in amazement was that of the red-robed elder of the Bagshaw clan using a single blade chop to break apart Linley's cube. That battle had been watched by many outsiders who were present at Mologo Island. Those of them who trained in the elemental laws of water naturally would record it down. Because the main figure in this battle, Linley, was considered by many experts to be of the Four Divine Beasts clan, these scryer recordings naturally made their way to the Four Divine Beasts clan. Only, the speed at which this happened was rather slow. Linley had been in the Four Divine Beasts clan for so many years now, but the scryer recording had just now made its way here. Look. That red-robed elder is about to fight with our clansmen. The handsome man said hurriedly. In the scryer recording, that red-robed elder, after hearing the order from the clan leader of the Bagshaw clan, Backwill, began to wield his blade and charge towards Linley. Seeing the saber blow strike down, the two elders both held their breaths. But then, they saw from the scryer recording that Linley was able to use just his right leg to kick against that saber, smashing that seven-star fiend directly into the ground. Moments later, the scryer recording came to an end. Formidable. The handsome man sighed in praise. A stunned look was in the eyes of the bald man as well. Just by relying on his body, he was able to resist a full-force material attack from a seven-star fiend. For his body to be so incredibly strong, even in our clan, there are few who are at this level. You and I are not, at least. The handsome man agreed. Although the Azure Dragon clan's members were indeed strong in dragon form, to be as strong as this, very few in the Azure Dragon clan could accomplish it. For one's dragon form to be at this level of power wasn't just a matter of lineage, it also required other factors. It isn't just that his body is tough. Did you see that globe of earthen yellow light surrounding his body? Everyone trapped within it will have their movements be affected. Even that red-robed elder of Mologo Island was affected as well. The bald man said solemnly. Right. That's a gravitational space. An extremely formidable gravitational space. The handsome youth said, puzzled, someone in our clan is actually specialized in the laws of the earth? And at such a level? Inconceivable. After having seen that scryer recording, they were certain that this person was of their clan. In the entire infernal realm, only the Azure Dragon clan could have such powerful bodies after assuming dragon form. This person's power is great. The bald man sighed. He was able to defeat a seven-star fiend without even using his innate divine ability. If he had used his innate divine ability, he would have easily won. Right. The handsome man nodded. His body is so powerful, which means that his lineage must be very pure. If his lineage is very pure, then his innate divine ability must be formidable as well. The handsome youth knew full well how powerful his clan's innate divine ability was. But, I've never seen this person before. The bald man looked at the other man. Have you? The handsome man frowned. This transformation, I haven't seen it either. It might be an expert who is in seclusion outside the clan. The handsome man said. Humph. The clan is in a state of crisis, but this person still doesn't return. The bald man was clearly very unhappy. He might be powerful, but if he doesn't return, what good is he? Knock. Knock. The sound of the door being knocked. Enter. The bald man said calmly. The bald, black-robed man pushed open the door to the private room, then said respectfully, Elders, the 28 participants of the ancestral baptism are here. Oh. Let's go. Let's activate the Dragon's pool. The handsome man said, and then he headed out alongside the bald man. The two were members of the elders of the Azure Dragon clan. Linley's group of 28 followed behind the two elders and the 4 black-robed men, walking through a narrow corridor. Up in front, the 2 elders chatted and laughed with each other. Garvigiowe, it's quite a rare occasion for us to have a god participate in the ancestral baptism. It is quite interesting. The handsome man nodded. He became a god without undergoing the ancestral baptism. Not bad. The handsome man turned to glance at Linley, but unfortunately, during that great battle above Malogo Island, Linley had been in dragon form the entire time. Currently, Linley was in human form, so the 2 elders naturally couldn't recognize him as being the main character of the scryer recording they had just seen, that so-called reclusive expert who was living outside the clan. At the end of the walkway was a very wide palace hall. In the center of the palace hall, there was a large round pool that was 200 meters in diameter. The waters of the pool emitted a very peculiar odor, and next to the pool, there was a black-robed figure that was tossing in a large amount of herbs into it. Bubble, bubble, the waters of the pool continuously frothed. This is the Dragon's pool. The bald man said in a clear voice. Wait a while. Go in only after I tell you to. As he spoke, the bald man, with a flip of his hand, retrieved a fist-sized gemstone. This fist-sized gemstone sparkled with a dazzling azure light, and the bald man tossed it directly into the Dragon's pool. Plunk. The gemstone fell into the waters of the pool. The strange thing was, the Dragon's pool immediately glowed with a dazzling azure light that was quite piercing to the eye. And then, the waters of the entire Dragon's pool began to wildly bubble, with blasts of water constantly appearing and a large amount of azure energy forming waves that circulated on the surface, as though tiny azure dragons were swirling about. Enough. You can all go in now. The bald man said casually. You keep an eye on them for me. The bald man turned to look at the bald, black-robed man. After the ancestral baptism is complete, retrieve the Dragon's jewel and give it to us. Yes, elder. The bald, black-robed man bowed as he replied. Let's go. The bald man and the handsome man laughed, then departed. The ancestral baptism would take a fairly long period of time. The 2 elders wouldn't just wait there like fools. The bald, black-robed man immediately stared coldly at the group of 28. All of you, go in. Dragon's pool. Linley stared at the azure energy swirling about in front of him, at that Dragon's pool that was emitting that dazzling azure light. He immediately dove directly into the Dragon's pool, moving so fast he was like a ray of light. As for the other 27, they too charged forward en masse and entered the Dragon's pool. The 28 all landed within the Dragon's pool. Roar. The entire Dragon's pool emitted a strange, draconic roar, a roar which shook the soul. At the same time, the dazzling azure light which the Dragon's pool had been shooting out in every direction began to dim, and the large amounts of azure energy swirling on the surface of the pool, with a whoosh, flooded towards those 28 people. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 11, Innate Divine Ability. Countless streams of azure energy circled about like serpents slithering in the Dragon's pool. These azure energy currents flooded towards those 28 people, surrounding them like azure silkworm cocoons which continuously spun themselves around them. What an unusual feeling! As soon as he had entered the Dragon's pool, Linley had sensed a large amount of energy surrounding him. It was as though he had been returned to his mother's womb. The strange energy brought warmth to every part of his body and seeped deep into it. His body felt both numb and comfortable. So this is the ancestral baptism. Quite comfortable, actually. Linley closed his eyes, luxuriating in the feeling of that unique energy entering his body. The energy continuously seeped in through his skin. His flesh, his nerves, his blood vessels, his blood, they were all infused with it. Even his bones were infused with it, and even his eyes and eyelids were going numb. From inside to outside, not a single part of his body was left unchanged. In terms of spirit or body, Linley was currently in a very relaxed state. The palace hall where the Dragon's pool was located was extremely large. It was 300 or 400 meters wide, and nearly 100 meters tall. The ceiling of the palace hall, in particular, had an image of a bellowing dragon carved into it. Bubble, bubble, the Dragon's pool continuously frothed. At the side of the Dragon's pool, quite a few black-robed men were resting while watching these 28 junior descendants metamorphosize. The ancestral baptism will take at least 1 or 2 days. Some with purer bloodlines will have their ancestral baptism last for 6 or 7 days. The bald, black-robed man shook his head. The 2 elders went to rest, but we still have to wait here. A silver-haired youth by the side of the bald, black-robed man laughed. When one day you become one of the elders, you can be like that as well. Me? Become an elder? I'll wait to have the power of a 7-star fiend first. The bald, black-robed man said resignedly. Hey. These juniors are beginning to slow down in their rate of absorbing the energy of the Dragon's jewel. The silver-haired youth suddenly said. The bald, black-robed man turned to look. Indeed. Currently, in the Dragon's pool, 25 of the 28 azure cocoons had ceased absorbing the azure energy, with only 3 left which continued to devour the azure energy. During this ancestral baptism, there's actually 3 who have high potential. The bald, black-robed man sighed in praise. The longer they can absorb the power of the Dragon's gem, the purer the ancestors' blood is in their veins, and the greater amount as well. Right. The silver-haired youth nodded. However, juniors these days all have very shallow amounts of the lineage. Now that they are done absorbing the energy of the Dragon's gem, they'll have completed their ancestral baptism shortly. I heard that the more powerful 2nd and 3rd generation members of our clan, when undergoing their ancestral baptism, took 1 or 2 full days just to absorb the energy of the Dragon's gem. The bald, black-robed man said mysteriously. Are you serious? The silver-haired youth didn't dare believe it. Ordinary clansmen only need a few moments to complete the absorption part. Is the lineage of the 2nd and 3rd generation clansmen that much superior to ordinary clansmen? Why would I lie to you? Not long ago, that Barrack fellow. Do you know of him? The bald, black-robed man said. I do. The silver-haired youth sighed in praise. Supposedly, he spent a full night just absorbing the power of the Dragon's gem. The purity of his lineage is truly quite rare. Just think about it. If even Barrack's lineage could be so pure, how pure is the lineage of the 2nd and 3rd generations? The bald, black-robed man laughed. That Dragon's gem had been completely charged, but he immediately absorbed almost a third of it. The bald, black-robed man sighed with feeling. I saw this happen myself. A third. That much? The silver-haired youth said in shock. A single dragonized gem would generally be swapped out for a fully charged dragonized gem after using up half of its energy. However, generally speaking, half of the energy of a dragonized gem would be enough to provide ancestral baptisms for thousands of years for the clan. Given there was an ancestral baptism every 100 years, that meant it could be used for tens of times, consecutively. But Barak had caused the dragonized gem to have a third of its energy used up in a single ancestral baptism. This was indeed shocking. It seems as though today's dragonized gem is fully charged. The bald, black-robed man said. The dragonized gem was a fairly precious item for the Azure Dragon clan. To others, however, it was worthless. After all, the energy of the dragonized gem would only take effect on someone who had the Azure Dragon lineage. The Azure Dragon clan, in turn, had to spend an enormous amount of money to create these dragonized gems. Look, just one left. The other 27 have stopped absorbing the energy of the dragonized gem. The silver-haired youth said. The bald, black-robed man turned to look, only to see that in the dragonized pool, just a single, large azure energy cocoon remained. A large amount of azure energy continuously, ceaselessly flooded towards that azure cocoon, which seemed to be like a bottomless pit, capable of absorbing as much energy as came to it. Whoa! This one should be that god. The bald, black-robed man, glancing at the other 27, knew that the remaining one was Linley. God. The silver-haired youth laughed. I hear that he just came back not long ago from the outside world. He was able to reach the god level without undergoing the ancestral baptism. He's quite talented. No wonder he's able to absorb so much of the energy of the dragonized gem. Tell me, how much do you think he will absorb? The bald, black-robed man laughed. Hard to say. Perhaps he might be able to absorb a tenth of the energy of the dragonized gem. The youth said. A tenth? That's not very likely. The bald, black-robed man shook his head. As they spoke, the two continued to pay attention to the final, remaining azure cocoon within the dragonized pool. As for the other 27, they were in a state of slumber. Time flowed on. Half the night has passed. He's still absorbing. All of the black-robed men around the dragonized pool were discussing this amongst themselves now. Crackle. That azure energy continued to endlessly flood towards Linley's azure cocoon, which didn't reject any of it, instead constantly absorbing all the azure energy. The strange energy of the dragonized gem continuously flooded every single part of Linley's body. But it seemed as though Linley's bones and flesh were able to absorb as much energy as was sent to them. My entire body is shaking. Linley felt extremely comfortable. He could sense that unique energy seeping deep into every part of his body, merging with the latent, potential energy throughout his body. The energy of the dragonized gem was completely compatible with Linley's bloodline energy. However, it was as though the bloodline energy in Linley's body hadn't been completely discovered yet. Thus, a large amount of the energy of the dragonized gem continued to flood in, constantly drawing out the energy hidden deep in the blood which flowed throughout Linley's body. It's been an entire night. The black-robed men surrounding the dragonized pool were awestruck. Last time, I heard that Barak spent an entire night absorbing. But this person actually, right, what's his name? The silver-haired man asked. Linley. He's Linley. The bald, black-robed man had been in charging of assembling Linley's group, and so he was very familiar with Linley's information. Oh, that Linley is just like Barak. He also comes from the Yulan branch. The same branch? The silver-haired youth was astonished. I wonder how much energy this Linley will be able to absorb. The bald, black-robed man stared at the dragonized pool. The azure energy continued to flood out, not stopping at all. Only a long time later, the speed of the azure energy flow slowed down, then came to a halt. That azure cocoon merged into Linley's body as well. Within the Dragoneyes pool, Linley completely stopped moving, falling into a slumber, just as the other 27 had. Half a day, and a full night. The bald, black-robed man and the silver-haired youth looked at each other, their eyes filled with amazement and envy. The longer one could absorb, the more pure one's lineage was, and the more talented one would be in water. In addition, one's innate divine ability would also be more powerful. Half a day and one night? Only the legendary members of the second and third generation could compare to this. Ah! Linley seemed to be asleep, but his consciousness was still quite clear. Linley could sense that his skin, his flesh, his bones, his organs, his entire body seemed to be trembling with excitement as countless microscopic threads of energy danced about. Throughout his body, every single cell was vibrating minutely. The energy of the Dragoneyes pool and the energy of his lineage was fusing together. It felt as though every part of my body is coming alive. Linley felt that this was inconceivable. In addition, the energy of the Dragoneyes gem, along with the energy of his lineage, when coming together, were silently transforming Linley's body. From his skin to his flesh to deep within his cells, a transformation was occurring. An intrinsic metamorphosis. As this silent transformation occurred, Linley allowed his body to change unimpeded, just using his consciousness to sense it. Not long after Linley stopped absorbing the energy of the Dragoneyes gem, the other people throughout the Dragoneyes pool began to change dramatically. First was a youth in the Dragoneyes pool who suddenly opened his eyes, then let out a wild howl. Draconic scales suddenly emerged from his body, and his draconic tail began to thrash about in the pool as well. Waves were sent splashing everywhere. This dragon-formed youth let out an agonized howl. Moments later, he slowly calmed down, regaining his calm. At the same time, rumble, a rippling surge of energy came as the natural laws descended. A black-colored stone that glowed with an azure-greenish aura appeared, hovering above his head. It was a water-type divine spark. This kid is going to become a demigod. The silver-haired youth chuckled. All those who entered the ancestral baptism would naturally become deities of water, and would also gain their innate divine ability. The first one to transform is the one who absorbed the least amount of energy from the Dragoneyes gem, and has the least potential. The bald, black-robed man couldn't help but snicker disdainfully. Geez. This junior just completed his ancestral baptism. Say something nice instead, can't you? The silver-haired man laughed calmly. He, too, knew that although the other had said some unpleasant words, these words were true. The lesser the lineage, the lesser the elemental affinity to water, and the weaker the innate divine ability. As time flowed, one person after another in the Dragoneyes pool became deities. The vast majority of them completed the process in just 2 days. The second and third to last required 3 days before becoming a deity. After the 2 of them became deities, in the entire Dragoneyes pool, only Linley remained, still slumbering. The 27 had gathered at the sides of the Dragoneyes pool and were watching Linley within it. Wait slowly. From the looks of it, this Linley will need at least quite a few days before he will complete his transformation. The silver-haired youth said. I expect he'll take more time than Barrick did. The bald, black-robed man said. Time flowed on. In the blink of an eye, 11 days had passed since Linley had entered the Dragoneyes pool. Very, very few members of the Azure Dragon clan would take 11 days for the transformation. Linley remained the only person in the Dragoneyes pool. Linley suddenly let out an agonized howl. Immediately, the group of black-robed men surrounding the Dragoneyes pool, as well as those 27 others, felt their hearts tremble. They immediately looked over. At this moment, Draconic scales completely covered Linley's entire body, and savage spikes had sprouted out as well. A terrifying aura drifted out. So painful. Linley gritted his teeth. He felt as though every single cell in his body was exploding with terrifying power, and countless surges of energy were constantly merging inside his body. This exploding energy caused Linley to be unable to refrain from transforming. The latent energy inherent in his mighty body continuously flowed out and merged like countless rivers that were flowing upwards. Up, 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 up into his mind. At this moment, that soul-protecting sovereign artifact was completely ineffective. This soul-protecting sovereign artifact would defend against enemy attacks, but wouldn't defend against Linley's own energy. This massive flood of energy poured directly into Linley's sea of consciousness, completely surrounding the souls of Linley's 4 clones. In the sea of consciousness, that bizarre azure light began to glow like a halo. On multiple occasions, even as far back as when Linley was a saint, this azure halo had saved him. But this time, the glowing azure halo was constantly growing more and more powerful. The glowing azure halo grew more and more powerful, until it seemed to have transformed into the sun, illuminating the entire sea of consciousness. The people by the side of the Dragon's pool stared with wide eyes at this scene. Around Linley's body, the phantom of an enormous azure dragon appeared, filling nearly the entire palace hall as it coiled around him. This azure dragon phantom hovered directly around Linley, and its illusory eyes actually swept the group of people by the side of the Dragon's pool with its gaze. The azure dragon phantom. It's actually the azure dragon phantom. And what an incredibly clear azure dragon phantom. The black-robed men stared, slack-jawed. As for Linley, he was currently opening his mouth, and as he did so, that azure dragon phantom also opened its mouth, emitting a terrifying draconic cry, and as it did, a blurry azure energy halo suddenly spread out in every direction, filling the entire palace hall. Every god and demigod present suddenly froze, as though having lost all consciousness. Even those black-robed high gods could feel their souls be trapped in a very peculiar state. The bald, black-robed man instantly regained his clarity of mind, then said in astonishment, "Innate divine ability, dragon roar, at such a terrifying level of power, and he is only a god. If he were a high god." Rumble. The natural laws suddenly descended. Linley had become a deity in water as well. Book 17, Indigo Prefecture, Chapter 12, The Might of the Dragon Roar. These black-robed figures had long since grown accustomed to the sight of people becoming deities at the Dragon's pool. Naturally, it wouldn't surprise them. However, they currently were still astonished by the enormous azure dragon phantom which had appeared behind Linley. Azure Dragon Phantom. A god is capable of manifesting the azure dragon phantom. These black-robed men were utterly dazed. Much like the divine beasts god Ada Rat and Suani Lion, the divine beast Azure Dragon, when using its innate divine ability, would also have an illusion of its true form appear behind it. If they were true divine beasts, then when using this innate divine ability as a demigod, the illusory phantom would still appear. But the Azure Dragon clan was different. This was because in the entire Azure Dragon clan, only the ancestor, the Azure Dragon, was a true divine beast, a true Azure Dragon. As for his descendants, such as the clansmen of the 2nd or 3rd generation, all the way down to Linley, they only had the bloodline of the Azure Dragon, but they weren't the true divine beast Azure Dragon. The power of their innate divine ability was far inferior to that of their ancestor. But although it was inferior to their ancestors, there were still varying levels of strength with regards to this innate divine ability amongst the descendants of the Azure Dragon clan. This was because the innate divine ability was linked to one's spiritual energy. Thus, generally speaking, clansmen who had extremely powerful innate divine abilities would only just barely manifest the Azure Dragon Phantom upon reaching the high god level, when their souls became more powerful. As for those with weaker innate divine abilities, even after becoming high gods, they still wouldn't be able to form an azure dragon phantom. Only gods with exceedingly powerful innate divine abilities were capable of forming an azure dragon phantom. For example, the second-generation members of the Azure Dragon clan, as gods, were able to manifest the Azure Dragon phantom. As for the third generation, only part of them were able to manifest the Azure Dragon phantom as gods. A god who is capable of manifesting the Azure Dragon phantom. The black-robed men looked at each other, their gazes filled with shock. Rumble. To the side of Linley's original body, another Linley had appeared, hovering in the air, dressed in an azure green robe and with a head full of azure green hair, who emanated an aura of water. This was Linley's divine water clone, and it immediately entered Linley's original body. The Azure Dragon phantom had disappeared long ago. So this is what the ancestral baptism is all about. Linley, his eyes closed, was sensing his sea of consciousness and his soul. Deep within his mind, seated above that soul sea was his divine earth, fire, wind, and water clones. In the center of those four clones was that black stone, and above the black stone was the soul of Linley's original body. At the same time, the entire soul sea was flooded with a thick, azure light. In the Yulon continent, when Linley had only been a saint, this azure light had saved Linley on multiple occasions. But afterwards, when Linley's power had grown, the strength of this azure light had become far inferior to the soul attacks of others and unable to withstand them. However, after this ancestral baptism, the power of this azure halo had increased 10,000-fold. So the innate divine ability is as marvelous as this. Linley was incomparably surprised. It isn't just pure divine power, nor is it pure spiritual energy. When the spiritual energy and this azure aura combines, only then can this innate divine ability be executed. Only now did Linley understand the reason why innate divine abilities could only be used by divine beasts, and why others couldn't learn how to use them. For example, Bibi's God Eater. For example, Dalin's Heaven Devourer. They were all divine beasts, causing their souls to have unique properties. The unique property of the Azure Dragon clan was this azure halo. Linley was unable to understand what source of energy this azure halo was, exactly. It wasn't divine power, nor was it spiritual energy. After undergoing the ancestral baptism, Linley naturally gained insight into this innate divine ability, and naturally gained insight into one of the profound mysteries of the laws of water. This innate divine ability, Dragon Roar, has some similarities to my Blackstone Prison. They both have an impact on the soul, rather than being killing techniques. Linley, after acquiring the Black Stone at the Amethyst Mountains, was capable of using the Black Stone to exert a power that impacted the soul, causing enemies to enter a dazed state. This Dragon Roar also affected the soul. My innate divine ability, Dragon Roar, isn't as strong as the Black Stone with regards to affecting the enemy. Linley had discovered the second difference now. Aside from the impact on an enemy's soul, his innate divine ability, Dragon Roar, had another, unique impact. Impacting speed. Linley shook his head. Wrong. It impacts time. Right. It's time. The innate divine ability of the Azure Dragon clan, the Dragon Roar, didn't just impact the soul, it also contained the ability to impact time. Although the strength of the effect on souls wasn't too great, the power it had to influence time was utterly monstrous. Neither the 7 elemental laws nor the 4 higher edicts had an impact on time. Time was something which was utterly inviolable. And yet, the innate divine ability of the divine beast, Azure Dragon, had an impact on time. Most likely, only this sort of innate, intrinsic divine ability could have an impact on time. Bibi's God Eater allowed the direct devouring of divine sparks. The Azure Dragon's Dragon Roar influenced time. Neither could be trained. Unfortunately, Linley wasn't a true Azure Dragon, and so the true power of the Dragon Roar couldn't be fully unleashed. When I use the Dragon Roar, the impact on time is very minute, virtually negligible. Linley thought of the ancestor. However, if it were the ancestor, a true azure dragon who used this divine ability, the effect would definitely be terrifying. Although his blood was very pure, it was still far from being comparable to his ancestor. Currently, the power of my soul isn't very great, so when I use this innate divine ability, the impact on others is very limited. Once I reach the high god stage and absorb a large amount of amethysts, my soul will strengthen by tens of times over, and the impact on time this innate divine ability has will definitely become more noticeable. Linley knew very well how terrifying the power to influence time was. However, this ancestral baptism has already had a tremendous effect on my power. Linley's heart was filled with joy. The greatest benefit Linley had reaped from this increase in power was that azure halo. The azure halo, combined with his spiritual energy, could not only execute his innate divine ability, it could also be used for soul defense. For example, even at the saint level, the azure halo had blocked soul attacks. But now, after the ancestral baptism, the power of that azure halo had been multiplied 10,000 times over. Once it fused with his spiritual energy, the power of Linley's soul defense was now extremely shocking. Given my current soul defense with the damaged soul protecting sovereign artifact assisting it, most likely only 7-star fiends who specialize in soul attacks are able to pose a threat to me. But whether or not they can kill me is another story. Linley was completely confident. Within the Dragoneyes pool, Linley opened his eyes. Those black-robed men as well as the 27 others were all staring at him in amazement. Linley looked around the Dragoneyes pool, realizing that he was the only one left within it. I didn't realize I was so slow. Linley laughed calmly, then flew out. Only now did the bald, black-robed man wave his hand, and that Dragoneyes jewel immediately levitated out of the Dragoneyes pool. Currently, only half of the Dragoneyes jewel was azure in color, with the other half being translucent. Half of the energy was used up. The bald, black-robed man glanced in surprise at Linley. Make the arrangements to have these people be sent back. The bald, black-robed man said to the silver-haired man. Fine. The silver-haired man nodded. Linley was quite delighted. Smiling, he followed after the silver-haired man, preparing to leave alongside him. Linley, hold it. The bald, black-robed man suddenly said. Huh. Linley turned to look at him, puzzled. The bald, black-robed man forced out a smile. During the ancestral baptism, all by yourself, you absorbed half the energy of a Dragoneyes jewel over the course of one night and half a day. As a god, when utilizing our innate divine ability, you were able to form an azure dragon phantom. You are indeed a genius of our clan, make a trip with me. Later, the elders will definitely want to meet you. Oh. Linley laughed as well. Varric had told him as well that after his ancestral baptism, because his bloodline was almost as pure as those of the third-generation clansmen, he had been received by an elder, and thus learned many things regarding the clan. The 27 were immediately led away, while Linley followed the bald, black-robed man forward, passing through a walkway into a palace hall, then through yet another corridor before arriving at the Eastern Palace Hall. Within a private room that was deep within the Eastern Palace Hall. Wait here for me. The bald, black-robed man said. Linley nodded. The bald, black-robed man immediately walked out. Linley had a hint of a smile on his lips. The ancestral baptism definitely had been a great boon to him. His soul defense had received an unexpected, delightful increase in power, and as for the dragon roar, in the future, when his soul grew more powerful, he would be able to truly unleash its might as well. I hope that the elder won't chat with me about all the various issues pertaining to the clan. Linley said to himself. It will be quite boring to listen to it a second time. In the hidden room, the bald man and the handsome youth were currently seated in the meditative position, awaiting the bald, black-robed man. Only when he entered did they open their eyes. You are so slow. The bald man said coldly. Give me the dragonized jewel. Yes, elder. The bald, black-robed man offered the dragonized jewel. Upon seeing it, the bald man and the handsome youth were both shocked. Only half remaining. The handsome youth immediately said. Right. This ancestral baptism had a genius named Linley. He took half a day and a night just to absorb the energy from the dragonized jewel, and only now did he complete the ancestral baptism. The bald, black-robed man said hurriedly. The handsome youth and the bald man exchanged shocked glances. Emmanuel Yemanu yet another person with potential has appeared in our clan. The handsome youth sighed in praise. Quick, have him come over. The bald man shouted hurriedly. Yes. The bald, black-robed man immediately left. Soon, Linley, dressed in a sky-blue robe and with his long brown hair casually flowing down his shoulders, walked in with a smile. Upon seeing these two people, Linley immediately bowed respectfully. Linley greets the elders. So it is you. The two had some recollection of Linley. It would be strange if they couldn't remember a god-level deity participating in the ancestral baptism. The handsome youth laughed. Linley, your bloodline is very pure. Completely comparable with our third-generation clansmen. You absolutely cannot squander such excellent innate gifts. The clan needs you. As he spoke, he flipped his hand and produced a fairly thin book. The fall of our clan 10,000 years ago as well as our current crisis. Once you read this book, you will understand it all. The handsome youth, with a toss, made the book fly straight towards Linley. Linley let out a secret sigh of relief. So he was just given a book. He had been worried he would have to listen to the story once again. It makes sense, Linley said to himself. If this has to be told to every single person with high potential or every single person who becomes a high god, wouldn't the elders grow tired of it? Linley took the book, pretending to flip through it. You can go back and read it later. The handsome youth laughed. Remember, after reading it, destroy it. Don't allow those ordinary demigods and gods to learn of it. For now, it's best to let them worry less. Yes, elder. Linley immediately responded. Linley. That bald man, Emmanuel, also laughed. Innate talent is one thing, but working hard and training is very important as well. Enough, you can go back and train. Remember, you are not permitted to use a divine spark. You have to rely on yourself to become a high god. If a genius like him was to use a divine spark, that would be an utter waste. Yes. Linley immediately bowed, then turned and began to walk towards the outside. Emmanuel, it's quite rare for us to be able to encounter such a genius. The handsome youth, Garvey, sighed in praise. Yes, it is quite rare. Let's go. The bald man, Emmanuel, laughed as well, and then he rose to his feet. But as his gaze unconsciously swept across Linley, who had already reached the doorway, Emmanuel's gaze suddenly turned sharp. A look of astonishment appeared on his face as well. He stared unblinkingly at Linley's right hand. As Linley was walking away, the movements of his hand occasionally revealed a glimpse of a black ring, the Coiling dragon ring. That's the ring of the ancestor. A soul-protecting sovereign artifact. The balding man's face instantly turned purple, and his entire body was shaking, his mind lost in a fog. A soul-protecting sovereign artifact. That's a soul-protecting sovereign artifact. Emmanuel, what is it? Garvey was rather puzzled. By now, Linley had already pushed the door open and was walking out. Only now did the bald man come to his senses, and he immediately shouted, Linley, halt.